It is a Thursday afternoon. This is 580 Sports Talk. Hope you didn't miss us too badly. Thanks, Kansas City Royals. But we're back and better than ever today. Brendan Dworzynski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, all here with you. A full show all the way until 6. Short shows Monday and Tuesday. The Royals decided they hate us yesterday. We did not have a show.
I think it was the Orioles, actually.
Yeah, someone decided they hated us. It might have been the O's.
An unbelievable show planned. I don't say this lightly. It was probably the best show in the history of 580 Sports Talk that we had planned for yesterday. And you didn't get to hear it because the Royals and the Orioles endured a 5-hour rain delay before first pitch yesterday. So that's the bad news. The good news is we're basically just doing the same show today.
Yeah, the good news is, aside from the Royals bullpen blowing another game, nothing locally new happened. So we've got a lot of the same stuff we had planned yesterday we will get to today. We'll get to that Royals loss last night. That's not great for the Royals bullpen to blow another one. We'll get to that. We've got some stats that Spencer pulled up to tell you just how bad this bullpen has been. There is some good, though. Do you know who is second in all of baseball in barrels so far, or barrel rate so far this season?
Is it my man Michael Garcia?
It is not. It is Bobby Wood Jr.
Yeah.
Do you know who's number one in all of baseball?
That's Michael Garcia.
The top two in the whole game. It is unreal how well some of these Royals are playing so far this year.
I think I saw somebody say he had was it his third that he hit the other day? He hit 3. By the time he was at 3 or something, it was like last July or something.
4.
Yeah, he had 4 all last year in total.
He was with the club from May on and was a regular.
132 games.
Yeah.
And he hit 4 home runs. This year, he's hit 3 in 6 games. It's quite incredible. So we'll get to the Royals here in a moment. We will also talk some Royals at the bottom of the hour. Max Rieper is going to join us. First time talking to Max this season, the editor-in-chief of RoyalsReview.com. He will join us a little bit later on. Also in this opening hour, some big NFL news yesterday morning. This was going to be a whole top-of-the-hour segment yesterday, but we were out of time. In fact, had no time at all. Stephon Diggs is leaving the Bills and is headed to the Houston Texans. Does that change any of the power structure in the AFC? That's coming up a little bit later on this hour. We've got some thoughts on the stadium vote that failed back on Tuesday and the different approaches by the Royals and Chiefs in the wake of this. Some interesting quotes that have come out since and that were unearthed before the vote failed demonstrably on Tuesday. We'll be joined by Rick Peterson in the 3 o'clock hour, for this week's edition of the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Round. In the 4 o'clock hour, our good pal CJ Moore is going to join us. Been a couple of weeks since we talked to CJ, but he is going to join us coming up from the Final Four in Glendale, coming up in the 4 o'clock hour today. Speaking of college basketball, how about some big news the last 2 days? Zeke Mayo, the Lawrence native, he's headed to the Kansas Jayhawks for his final year. That is incredible. Doug McDaniel is going to be the new starting point guard for the Kansas State Wildcats. That was made official today. It was announced that he was going to transfer yesterday. Would a player who assists the ball twice as often as he turns it over have helped K-State this year?
Yes.
Yeah, quite a bit. Doug McDaniel, in his career, 4.1 assists per game, 2 turnovers a game.
It's a real point guard.
Yes, an actual point guard, not out of position, not, he's a combo but can play the one. No, this is a real, true blue point guard. And that is the missing piece.
Not a scoring guard who can facilitate. This is a facilitating guard who can get his own.
Which is huge.
Much more in the Marquise Noel mold. This is an exciting addition for K-State.
And like all transfer portal players, neither Mayo to KU nor Doug McDaniel to K-State come without, maybe some cons on the pro-con list, but we'll get to all that. Overall, massive ads for both programs. All that and much, much more is coming up today on 580 Sports Talk. Also, we might spend the entire headline segment today talking about the Sacramento/Oakland/Vegas/ your city here A's. We might, because I'm so mad.
It's like the most appalling thing going on in major professional sports right now.
And every team is complicit. Every team's complicit.
In the sense that every team's owner wants Rob Manfred to be in charge, and Rob Manfred is complicit. Yes, absolutely, 100%.
So we'll get to that coming up a little bit later on today. We want to hear from you. We didn't get to hear from you all day yesterday. We want to hear from you The Top City Metal Supply text line number, 785-272-9429. Find us on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. Hello, shout out to everybody who is already watching along, listening along, whether it is on 580 AM, 104.9 FM, online at 580WIBW.com, or on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. But we begin today, this just in, the Royals bullpen, it's really, really, really bad. Cole, again, awesome yesterday. He was phenomenal. 1 hit and 2 walks over 6 1/3 innings, no runs allowed, struck out 7. He is now second in Major League Baseball among qualified pitchers, which you don't have to have pitched many innings at this point to be qualified, among whiff rate. 35+% of his pitches are drawing swings and misses this year. Pretty impressive. Really impressive, in fact. He was great. The offense, yeah, could you argue, well, we should have had more than 3 runs, and then we would have won the game? Sure, true. But also, if you're leading 3-0 heading to the 8th, you normally expect to win.
Especially, I mean, I would say that's a good offensive day.
It's good enough.
Facing one of the best in the league in Corbin Burns.
Yeah, Burns was good, too, for the Orioles.
Yeah, you're grading on a curve when it comes to the offensive output yesterday. A lot of hits, just weren't able to get the hit with runners in scoring position. Didn't sequence them very well, I suppose. But some good swings, some good at-bats, some good approaches. Top of the orders dialed in. Not a lot to complain about, really, offensively through 6 games. Like, you'd like to get Hunter Renfroe going. He did finally get on the board with a base hit, but like to see a little bit more production out of the bottom 4 in your lineup. But, boy, the top 5 have swung the bats really well. And even the guys who haven't, like Vinny Pasquantino, hitting the ball hard. Like, he's just going to start elevating the ball here any day now. And you're going to see the worm turn for Vinny, I have no doubt. Not a lot to complain about until you get to the late innings, and then there's a lot to complain about, and that's why the Royals are coming home 2-4 and not 3-3 or 4-2.
It's frustrating. You love to see all the good. There has been so much good so far, which is awesome. Bobby Witt, Michael Garcia, the offense, generally speaking.
The starting rotation.
The starting rotation has been among the best in baseball.
That's the biggest thing. We didn't get to talk about it because we didn't have a show yesterday, but Alec Marsh, holy cow. What a way to start his season. What an encouraging outing that was. And I mean, it's not going to always look that good 1 through 5, but if even the thought that it can look that good on a single turn through the rotation is just leaps and bounds beyond what it has been for the Royals the past 6 years. Like, you don't pitch like that in your starting rotation and be lousy. Like, this is not, I think we can, for now, feel like this is an improved baseball team. If nothing else.
Yes.
They are improved because they are going to be much better 1 through 5. Every trip through the rotation is going to look a whole lot better. They're not, again, all going to look that good, but you see the ceiling for your number 5 starter looking like what it looked like for Alec Marsh against the defending champions of the American League East, and you can feel really, really good about the guys who are taking the ball and throwing the majority of the innings. Now you just got to get the back end of the game right, and I think the first decision is a pretty easy one.
All right, Spencer, bring us these numbers. Spencer ran the numbers, ran the data on the discrepancy between how great, not good, how great the Royal starters have been through 6 games and how putrid the bullpen has been.
Well, I want to shout out Jake, Royals broadcaster Jake Eisenberg, because he posted this the other night. He said, here's what the Royals rotation has done with 4 quality starts. And at the time, it was a 1.74 ERA, but it's now down to a 1.44 ERA, 37 1/3 innings pitched, only walking 9 guys while striking out 40 and giving up just 17 hits.
Crazy.
But that doesn't match their win-loss record, does it?
No, it does not.
Because the bullpen has a ERA of 9.18 over 15 2/3 innings, walking 7 guys, only striking out 12 and allowing 23 hits in 15 2/3 innings.
Man, there's so much good. it's hard for me to be like overly negative when there's more good than bad, but you cannot blow this many ninth inning games.
But it's actually, when I was looking at it, it's really the back end of the bullpen.
Yeah, it's not even the seventh and eighth inning guys.
Or the sixth if you only have a guy pitch 5 like Waka did. It's only the latter 2 innings, the 8th and 9th inning guys that you put in.
I mean, it's terrible. It's really terrible. I mean, Will Smith clearly should not be in this role, and I don't know what that looks like. I would right now, I know it's early in the year, I would probably at this point go to you are low leverage only for the time being. There's a certain
Contreras didn't say so. He said that he was going to put him right back out there if they had another opportunity.
That's a mistake.
Not what I would do.
Yeah.
I'm not
like it's not that the results aren't good. It's not just that the results aren't good, because plainly they are not. You've got a blown save and then a 4-run ninth in 2 of your appearances. It's the stuff. It's not of closer quality. If you're going to be a left-handed closer in Major League Baseball, think of who those guys are. There aren't a lot of them, right? And the ones that you maybe think of off the top of your head, overpowering stuff. Like the best left-handed closer of all time is Billy Wagner, right? 100 with that filthy slider for all those years. Billy Wagner was bringing it from the left side, because typically you don't have the platoon advantage when you are a left-handed reliever. You're facing a lot of right-handed hitters, and managers in the 9th inning will be more apt to try and pinch hit for some of their weaker left-handed hitters with right-handed guys. So you better be really bringing big-time stuff. And Will Smith has never had like the Billy Wagner arsenal.
Right.
But in past years, his average fastball velocity has landed somewhere like 92 to 93 miles an hour. Again, not super overpowering, but if you mix that with some good off-speed stuff and you locate it well, you can keep big league hitters off balance, you can be a different look, and you can have some success. And Will Smith has had a career full of success as a major league reliever. His average fastball through his first 3 outings is 90 miles per hour. There are a lot of them coming in below 90 miles per hour.
Yeah, if you're hitting that as your average, that means there's plenty below that number.
We have a word for that. It's called pus. Like that's what that is. He's throwing pus out there, and he's getting rocked accordingly. And the command stinks. He's walked 4 guys in 2 2/3 innings. So right now, not only is it not a closer arsenal for Will Smith, it's barely a big league reliever arsenal for Will Smith. And I know it's only 3 outings, and I know it's only 1 week. And it's hard, I would say even impossible, to make declarations after 1 week of the season about what a team is or what a player is. But we're a week into this, and it's plain that that's not a major league closer.
Yeah, I mean, there's process parts of it that I think you can fairly judge at this point.
And I'm not necessarily sure, because the other guys in this bullpen who are veterans haven't exactly covered themselves in glory either. Chris Stratton had the one bad outing on opening day. Nick Anderson coughed up the game on Monday night. Like, those are the guys you might be tempted to turn towards. The guy with the best stuff, I still think, is James MacArthur, and he's allowed 4 runs on 7 hits in his 3 innings of work, though he hasn't allowed a home run or walked anybody, so some of that is Buzzard's luck. John Schreiber, to me, is probably not somebody you want to run out there if you're going to have to deal with a lefty in the late innings, in the 9th inning. He seems much more apt to have success against right-hand hitters, so I understand if you want to hold Schreiber off of that 9th inning role, you don't want to shoehorn him into a closer role. You want to keep him for the tough right-handers. And maybe the guy we haven't mentioned with the best stuff of anybody who's in consideration here, John McMillan, he's hurt, so he's not with the big club yet. But it can't be Will Smith. I don't know who it's going to be, who it needs to be. Your guess as good as mine. But Will Smith does not look the part of a major league closer right now, and he has cost you a promising start to this season. And I think it is incumbent upon Matt Cotrero and the Royals to be aggressive in making changes, because right now this is the squeaky wheel, and you can't win a pennant in April, but you could lose one. And with the amount of leash or lack thereof that the fans have for losing baseball, you want to make those corrections as quick as you possibly can, I think. So Cotrero's going to go to bat for his guys. He's not going to throw anybody under the bus in a post-game press conference. We'll see if the actions match the words, but I would hope it's a very short leash on Will Smith as a closer, unless he can find that velocity. because if you're a left-hander, you're going out there with 90 miles an hour. You should not be closing major league games.
Why doesn't Cole Ragans just throw a complete game? Is he stupid or something? I mean, on a serious.
Back in my day.
Yeah.
Back when men were men.
Yeah, back when, baseball was a real man's game, Cole Ragans would be going out there with his arm turning to roast beef with 2 outs in the 8th, but damn it, he'd be out there.
130 a night, Cole. 130 pitches a night. Who cares you've had 2 Tommy John surgeries?
No, I mean, he's been great, though. This whole starting rotation has been awesome. So, if that Michael Wacha start the other day is the worst you're going to get, this Royals team is going to be contending for the divisional title, if not a World Series title. But you've got to have everything else meshing around you. And at the plate, it's getting there. We knew this wasn't going to be an elite team this year, but the early returns are positive. The guys you needed to be good, have been stinging the ball.
I mean, really, last night, if you think, or yesterday, whatever it is, yesterday evening,
whatever that game
if
was.
Cole Reagan didn't give up back-to-back walks to start the 7th inning, he may as well finish that 7th and maybe even gone into the 8th.
Maybe. Although the problem you still run into then is Will Smith pitches in the 9.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you're not.
That's the unfortunate error. It's not like you just move them down the line one extra inning.
Unfortunately.
But no, you're right. I mean, hopefully, and I trust Matt Quattrero here, maybe more than I should at this point, but I like the guy. I like the process. I like the process the Royals have used to put the team together as it currently stands. I think at some point they will get this right. They will make the right change. I hope it is not too late when they make that change. There's a certain blowhard doofus morning show host in Kansas City who tweeted last night that they should cut Will Smith, get rid of him. This man also tweets like he's 80 years old every single day. I'm not going to name his, give names, but that's why you should listen to us and not to people in Kansas City. Anyway, I'm not cutting Will Smith. I'm just saying you're a low leverage guy now. Every team goes through that with someone at some point, right? Where, hey, we can't trust you right now. We'll get you work, but you're going to get work in the 7th inning when it's 7-2, not in the 9th inning when it's a 1-run game.
Or you're going to be the primary guy we call upon to get a lefty. Because, he's still got the slider and the curveball, and that'll play up against same hand hitters you'd like to think. I just want to know where the velocity went, because we have seen there's a body of work here that Will Smith, working 92 to 94 with the fastball, is an effective major league reliever. Even if that's not necessarily closer stuff, he's been effective for a long time in the league. Will Smith working 89, 91 with his fastball. Yeah, that's not going to fly. Like we've seen that's not going to work. So the command has to be better. The velocity has to come back. And if it doesn't, and you give it some time, then you can have that conversation. But yeah, anybody who wants to cut somebody after a week of baseball, baseball's not football, guys. Like it's not like every game you make an overreaction because there are only 17 of them.
No,
like you got to let things play out.
We got 6 months of this, brother.
You got to let things play out a little bit more than that. But I think it's time already to make a change. I don't think you can. I don't think you can go one run tonight or tomorrow night and say, yeah, we're going to put the ball back in his hand. I don't think that's because. You have to have accountability, right? It's like any other job. You have to have accountability. And if you've got other guys who are doing the job or are pitching better, but you keep giving the highest leverage opportunities to the same guy and he keeps tripping over his own 2 feet, then that doesn't reflect well. That doesn't play real well in a big league clubhouse.
We'll talk some more Major League Baseball coming up in just about 10 minutes when Max Rieper of Royals Review joins us. First things first, though, when we come back from our first commercial break of the day, the Houston Texans with a major trade with the Buffalo Bills yesterday. Are the Texans the new number 2 in the AFC? We'll discuss next on 580 Sports Talk. Just getting things started on this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan. That's Dan. That's Spencer. Hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, or you can drop in on the YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. You can also find the video feed on the WIBW News Facebook page, at 580 Sports Talk on Twitter, and at 580WIBW.com. We didn't get to this yesterday because we didn't have a show due to the rain delay. However, a major trade in the AFC. You don't see two teams that are in the contending or fringe contender tier of the NFL trade with each other every day. But the Houston Texans have traded a future second-round pick to the Buffalo Bills for Stephon Diggs plus a fifth and a sixth rounder. So they got two day three picks and a starting caliber wide receiver for a future second. And by the way, it's not even their own second round pick. They have two of them next year. They sent them the Minnesota Vikings second round pick,
which probably going to be a higher pick.
And listen, there's two angles here. Yeah, very likely will be. There's two angles here. It's the Texans angle and it's the Buffalo angle. The Texans one, I mean, this is win-win-win. You gave up a very movable liquid asset to go get a starting receiver. And even if you think that at this stage of his career, Stephon Diggs is closer to who he was second half of last season compared to the first half, well, you can put up with a more middling, older wide receiver when you've also got Nico Collins and Tank Dell on your team as your other two starting wide receivers. Who did Buffalo have starting at receiver? Congrats, it's you. Like that's rookie Khalil Shakir last year.
Who they have this year coming back on their roster? Only like, what do we say, like 40 people?
Well, they signed they signed Curtis Samuel. They've got Shakir.
And I like Kincaid.
Dalton Kincaid at tight end with Dawson Knox. Yeah, the rest of that wide receiver room's really grim.
Really grim. Yeah. So for Houston to give up that and to get multiple assets back and Diggs, I mean, shoot, if Diggs disappoints and he's only your third receiver, best third receiver in the NFL.
Here's the problem with that idea, though. Who says Stephon Diggs is going over there thinking he's going to be wide receiver 3 to anybody? You put him in the wide receiver room anywhere in the league. You send him to the 1988 San Francisco 49ers with Jerry Rice and John Taylor, and he's going to walk in that room and say, well, I'm the man. Give me the ball. I'm wide receiver 1 in this house. Like, the thing that the Bills have done here, and I think his name's Tim Graham with The Athletic.
Yep.
Wrote about this. He covers the Buffalo Bills and said basically the Bills were tired of Stephon Diggs. Mm-hmm. They had had enough. He had worn out his welcome and they were ready to move on. And they seemed ready to move on last year and really sort of limited his looks, his snaps, his targets in the offense down the stretch in a way that was noticeable. So I don't necessarily know that Stephon Diggs is like washed or cooked or whatever term you want to use. I think there's probably at least a year, if not more, of some solid production from
I agree.
A player who has been one of the best receivers in the game at his best. But what kind of role is he going to accept? What kind of impact is he going to have on the young guys in that locker room? What kind of teammate is Stephon Diggs going to be? Because if he were the teammate the Buffalo Bills needed him to be with those young wide receivers, with their quarterback, with the offense that they're trying to run, Stephon Diggs would still be a Buffalo Bill, I think.
I don't disagree with any of that at all, but I think there are two other important things to keep in mind here. One, if it doesn't work out, you know how much dead money he's owed next year?
Next year?
Next year. So going into 25.
I know what it is for next year, for this coming season. I know what the dead money hit is for the Bills, which is $31 million. But I do not know what the dead hit would be after that.
Nothing. If it doesn't work out, Houston can cut him and owe him no money after this year. I doubt that happens, but that is something that Houston could do if this experiment doesn't work out. The other thing for Stephon Diggs, I am going to guess, he is going to follow a very famous football paradigm. He's going to follow the diva wide receiver paradigm. Great as a youngster, as a young player, a rookie, first couple years guy, gets, ego, star power, success, all that, wants out. That was when he left Minnesota. What was he for the first couple years in Buffalo? That first season, 2 seasons when he was in Buffalo, you know what he was? He was Josh Allen's best friend. Josh Allen openly was like, no, this man changed my life. He was the missing piece. He was the one who took us to the next level, et cetera, et cetera. He was a great teammate for 2 years in Buffalo until suddenly he wasn't. Well, if you're Houston and you don't have to keep him for forever, you might be able to get out of it by the time the good teammate part of the diva wide receiver paradigm falls out of favor.
Are we ever going to get to that point, though, if he comes in and they're running him in the slot or you're running him behind Dell or Collins on the outside? I think that's a worthwhile question to ask. And look, if you're the Texans, that doesn't mean you don't try and bring in more talent at a cost while you've got the quarterback cost controlled. This is very clear that the Texans evaluated where they were after last season, where I don't know if they necessarily expected going into last year they were going to make the playoffs, but CJ Stroud, that guy, Tank Dell, that guy, they were successful despite not having a great running game or a solid presence at running back. And very clearly, their culture is good. Their coach is outstanding. They took a look at what they did in year one with CJ Stroud and said, hey, we got 3 years left that CJ Stroud is going to be cheap. Screw it. Let's try and win a Super Bowl.
And I love that. I love that approach.
I do too, Spencer. I'm right there with you. I think that's exactly what you ought to do. If you have the quarterback that you feel like you can win at a high level with, then your responsibility to that player while they are playing cost controlled is to go and surround them with the best talent that you can. So they went out and got Joe Mixon, flawed player, expensive player, older player, talented player, productive player.
Improvement over what they had.
Yes. And I think you can say the same thing about Stephon Diggs. Now, the impact he's going to have on that locker room, I have questions about that. That could be a negative with a young group of wide receivers to have somebody come in and expect to be the man and expect to be CJ Stroud's best friend when, hey, man, I was just fine throwing this rock to Tank Dell and Nico Collins all year last year. Let's pump your brakes and know your role as a veteran wide receiver and somebody who's new to the team. But you upgrade the talent meaningfully around the star quarterback. And if it costs you a little money and if it costs you a little bit of draft capital, so be it. You're trying to win a Super Bowl. Nobody's going to care about that second-round pick.
Of course.
If they play in the AFC Championship game this year, if they're the team to dethrone Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, who's going to give a damn about a second-round pick? Who's going to give a damn if Stephon Diggs isn't the cuddliest guy in the locker room? Go out.
Winning cures all.
Yes, go out, put the talent on the field, and let CJ Stroud cook.
Are they number 2 now in the AFC, Houston?
I feel like they have to be. On paper.
I still think it's Baltimore.
See, I still think it's Cincinnati. This might be the last year Cincinnati is in that conversation. I still think it's Cincinnati. I'd put Houston 3rd. Baltimore's really good. I'd put Houston I think 2 through 4, you could give me an argument for any of them, and I would say,
I think
clearly,
because we
all are. Yeah.
I think if you said right now, I'd have to put Cincinnati in that mix. But the rumors are they're trying to still offload Tyler Boyd.
Well, he's already a free agent.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, no, he's not on the roster right now.
I thought it was trade.
The T. Higgins situation.
Higgins, that's what I was thinking.
That one, super up in the air.
If they trade him, I mean, who do they have?
Well, it definitely changes things for sure. Coming up next, Max Rieper of Royals Review will join us here on 580 Sports Talk. The Kansas City Royals will be back in action coming up tonight, 6:40 first pitch, 6 o'clock pregame start time. You can listen to the game right here on 580 WIBW. And to talk all about the boys in blue, we are joined for the first time this season by Max Rieper, the editor-in-chief of RoyalsReview.com, part of SB Nation. Max, thank you so much for the time. Good to hear from you. Look, understanding that the bullpen has been very not good so far, how much have you enjoyed watching this young offense and this pitching staff really kind of come into their own through the first week of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you get solid starting pitching performances that keep you in the ball game, I mean, that's an improvement over what we used to, we've been accustomed to from the Royals the last couple of seasons, where they kind of are blown out early on, and we have no hope of them winning these games. So it's nice to get these solid starting pitching performances. And you think the bullpen, it's been a rough couple games. And I think Will Smith, there's some really concerning issues there. But, they did bring in, 4 veterans, Chris Stratton, John Schreiber, and Nick Anderson as well. And, these are guys that have done it before. There's going to be some rough patches where, they don't look so good, especially against good teams. Give Baltimore a lot of credit. They're a good team that's going to compete for a championship this year, but they're going to have some ups and downs. But I think overall, let's get past the rough stretch, and I think the starting pitching will be able to keep us in ball games. And if that bullpen turns around, we're going to see a lot more W's here in Kansas City. So it's an encouraging start. I really like what we've seen out of the starting pitching, not just from guys like Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha, who we kind of expected would be pretty solid, but to see Brady Singer kind of turn his career around after a really rough year last year. He looked pretty nailed over the weekend. And then get Alec Marsh to give a really solid performance against that really good Baltimore team. I think that's super encouraging, because they're going to need some depth in that rotation as well. So I think really early returns are pretty good for a team that still has a losing record right now, but hopefully the Chicago White Sox can give them some opportunities to win some ball games this weekend.
Cole Ragans has been great through his first 2 starts of the year, and he was just nails all game yesterday. Unfortunately, doesn't come away with the win because of the bullpen issues, but he has been great. What are your expectations, or maybe your most optimistic outlook for Cole Ragans this year? Because it has come up on this show. It has come up nationally. I know you've seen and heard it, Max. I mean, there's talk about maybe he's a Cy Young candidate in the American League this year. Do you feel like that is a real possibility for the new young Royals ace?
I mean, I know that Royals fans kind of want to be cautiously optimistic, and we're always waiting for like the other shoe to drop. But I mean, the sky's the limit with Cole Ragans, right? I mean, over the last 2 months last year, he was the best pitcher in baseball according to a lot of metrics. And certainly over the first 2 starts this year, he hasn't disabused that notion at all. He's looked really sharp with that fastball that looks like it's added a little bit of velocity, a little bit of break to it. His secondary pitches look fantastic, and he just looks like he's in command of the strike zone out there. So I know we're kind of waiting for everything to fall apart, but he may be the real deal. And I think the sky is the limit. I think a Cy Young award is not out of the question with him. He's certainly a guy that I know in the sports books have him on the boards as kind of a dark horse candidate, but I think he's a guy that will definitely be considered for the All-Star game and will be there in the running for a Cy Young award at the end of the season. I think the only concern that you really have going forward is, can he stay healthy? Because he hasn't really, he does have an injury risk. He has had Tommy John surgery, and he's a guy that hasn't had to perform for 30 starts over a full season. So we'll have to see how he's able to kind of maintain this over the full season. But I think Royals fans have good reason to be very optimistic about him.
Our guest is Max Rieper, editor of Royals Review, joining us here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Max, the strikeout to walk ratio has been the thing that has really stood out for the Royals starters. This was one of the worst teams in baseball at missing bats last year. And early on in the season, the starting pitching staff, at least, has been one of the best staffs when it comes to missing bats. A lot of that is the Cole Ragans effect, but what else have you seen, particularly from the in-house guys like Brady Singer and Alec Marsh, that suggests that maybe this is an organizational change that might stick, might not just be a one-week phenomenon?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see going forward how sustainable the kind of the pitching goes, because it's early in the year and the arms are always ahead of the bats early on, right? Like we've had some kind of cold weather and And we'll see if these pitchers are able to maintain their performance against as we go into the season and face a variety of teams. But yeah, I think you have to be pretty encouraged by their ability to miss bats, and I think maybe even more encouraging than that, their ability to throw strikes. I mean, because last year the big problem was can we throw the ball in the strike zone? I know they emphasized raiding the zone, but they couldn't really execute. But in fairness, they didn't really have the personnel for it last year. This year, they bring in those veterans. They bring in guys like Waka and Lugo who have kind of demonstrated an ability to throw strikes, and I think that's made a big impact. And not only bringing in those guys, but also showing the younger guys, hey, this is how it's done. This is how you can do it. Don't be afraid to attack the zone. Go after these hitters. And I'm one that's kind of poo-pooed veteran presence in the past, but there is a real impact that having a guy like that in the clubhouse, in the pitching staff, can have on some of these younger pitchers. I think we saw that with James Shields. And so I do like the approach they're taking now, that they're going to go out and attack these hitters and don't be afraid to go pound that strike zone. And it's if they can do that all year, I think they're going to be in a lot of ball games.
Max, where do you think the Royals will be playing when Maikel Garcia sets the single season home run record? Are they going to be at the K, or is it going to come down to their final road trip? Where's that going to happen?
Yeah, who had him in the top 5 in Major League Baseball in home runs, right behind like Mookie Betts. It's been great to see 3 home runs already, and it's early. But more beyond that, I mean, he's just singing the ball every time he makes contact. It's not just the home runs. He's hitting doubles. I mean, every single one of his hits, I believe, has been an extra base hit. So just to see him hit with that kind of authority is really encouraging, because he's a pretty valuable player, even if he's not hitting for power, right? He's got the speed. He's got the defense. He gets on base. Even if he performs like he did last year, where he was an okay hitter, but a little bit below average, not much power at all, that was still pretty valuable as a 2 wins above replacement player. If he starts hitting for power, and not even a lot of power, but like 15 home runs and maybe 30 doubles, that's a hugely valuable player at a premium, playing premium defense at third base. That's going to be a 4 wins above replacement player. You talk about maybe an all-star. So it's been really encouraging to see him hit the ball with authority. I think we saw some signs of that over the winter when he played in the Venezuelan Winter League, where he started hitting for some power down there, and really also had a lot of swagger and a lot of confidence. And he's a guy that I think kind of provides a little fire in that clubhouse. I think he's a guy that has a lot of confidence in his abilities and a lot of desire to win. And they kind of need someone like that in that clubhouse, especially with these younger guys. So I'm really encouraged by what I'm seeing out of him on the field and off the field as well. I was really impressed with his interview in English after the game the other night. He's certainly been working on that. So I think he's going to be a fan favorite this year, and certainly with his on-field performance.
Some fast starts for really the top part of the Royals lineup. And once you get past some of the guys in the top 5, top 6 in the order, some disappointing starts. Anybody you look at that you're concerned about their first week of performance at the plate, or are you willing to look at the performance of the offense and say, yeah, anything that's a negative so far, we can just write it off. It's a week against a couple of good pitching staffs?
Yeah, I'm certainly not cutting anyone after a week, but we'll let the small sample size play out a little bit. I think Vinny Pasquantino's start is a little concerning. Not just that he's not hitting for average; he's hitting like I think $143 right now. Just that his swings don't look like the kind of swings we saw out of him, when he was stinging the ball last year. You have to wonder if the elbow is still, concerning him a little bit, or if he's just trying to get his sea legs under him. So we'll give him some time, obviously, but the fact that he's not hitting the ball hard a whole lot is a little concerning. You got to be a little concerned with Hunter Renfroe, right? I mean, to go hitless for that long to start the year, and he had a hard hit ball on, I think it was Monday, that would have been a home run in any other park, but Camden Yards has that really deep left field. That's a tough break, but yeah, other than that, he hasn't really looked comfortable at the plate this year. And then, he's a veteran and maybe things will turn around, but he's also a veteran that didn't really hit well last year. So there were already concerns coming into the season about whether he had much left in the tank. So those two guys concern me a little bit. This frankly isn't a lineup that's going to score a ton of runs on the year anyway. That's why they kind of need guys like Garcia and Witt to hit so well. And it would be nice to get a guy like Pasquantino to kind of add to that as well. They really need his bat in that lineup because he gets it gets pretty thin pretty quick once you go down that lineup. But we'll keep our eye on Vinny. Hopefully, he gets going here pretty soon.
We're joined by Max Rieper of Royals Review on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. And Max, I just saw a little earlier that the Royals posted that Michael Massey is going on a rehab assignment. When he comes back, what do you think his role is going to be? I mean, Frazier hasn't hit very well so far at that second base role, but what do you think that his where will Massey be once he comes back?
It's probably a pretty important year for Massey's career, I would think. I mean, he showed something last year with some power, with 15 home runs, which is, I think, one of the better home run seasons we've seen out of a Royals second baseman. But, obviously he's not getting on base, not hitting for average. The defense wasn't quite as good as advertised. He was a platinum glove winner or gold glove winner in the minors, but the defense was a little erratic last year. So coming into this year, I think they really want to see a lot out of him. And, Adam Frazier is a nice hedge against the Michael Massey bet in case, and obviously they needed him to start the year with Massey going on the injured list to begin the year. But I think they want to get a good long look at him, give him 300, 400 plate appearances, see what they have in him, see if he's a major league starter. And if not, they need to move on from him, frankly. I think they've gotten to this point in their rebuild where they're not going to wait for guys for very long. Like, they'll give you some time because he does show some promise. But if it becomes clear that he's not part of the future, they need to kind of looking to go in another direction to fill that position. So it's a pretty important year for him. So I expect him to get some playing, be a regular starter when he gets back. Adam Frazier, I think, was signed more for a utility role, but certainly they have that veteran in Frazier, ready to go if Massey's not ready or able. And look, if Massey doesn't perform, I don't think it's beyond them to option him down to Omaha for some more seasoning. They have that option with Frazier as an alternative. So it's kind of, I kind of like the attitude they have going into this year of, you guys need to perform, and if you don't, you're not going to be on the team anymore.
Do you see Quatraro kind of mixing around maybe the lineup a little bit just to kind of get some guys, some hits and doing some things with the lineup? It seems like, you look at a guy like Bobby Witt Jr., he's sitting there at that 3-hole. He only has 2 RBIs, and those are on his home runs. So do you think they maybe move him down to be able to drive some guys in?
Well, we'll see, because they need guys to get on base to drive them home, and so far there's only a couple of guys in the lineup right now getting on base regularly. Yeah, I think Quatraro will be pretty flexible about the lineup. I mean, I think he showed that last year. He had well over 100 different lineups last year. And when you're a team that struggles to score runs, I think you're going to do whatever you can do to try to maximize the potential out of that lineup. So it wouldn't surprise me. I think they like Bobby in that 2-hole, to be honest. With Vinny, especially, you want Vinny, if Vinny gets going, you want him hitting behind Bobby so that Bobby has good pitches to hit. I think you're going to see a lot more pitchers trying to work around him, right? I don't think, especially if Vinny's not hitting and there aren't a lot of other guys in that lineup hitting, he's going to start seeing a lot of pitches off the plate. And, I think what's been encouraging seeing him early in this year, he's not pressing. He's taking those balls. And so, I can see them being pretty experimental with the lineup early on, because they're going to try to find something that works, because they're going to have to get some of these guys going, and it's going to be probably a struggle to score runs for most of the year.
Finishing things up with Max Rieper from Royals Review. He is the editor-in-chief of RoyalsReview.com, part of the SB Nation Network, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. So, Max, some off-the-field Royals news here. How surprised were you by how handily the stadium tax vote was defeated in Kansas City earlier this week?
Yeah, like a year ago when they kind of made announcements, or a year and a half ago when they made announcements to move downtown, I thought, yeah, this will probably pass, and they have their ducks lined up in a row, and this will be pretty smooth, and we'll see the plan. But I think this will probably, Kansas City loves the sport, so they'll pass this. And then as things kind of went on, and they delayed the site selection, and then there was some opposition that came up about communities getting displaced in where they wanted to build the stadium. I became to become a little more skeptical. And then polling came out that showed it was going to be a really close vote. And for them to get walloped on election day was pretty surprising to me. And maybe we shouldn't have been so surprised. I mean, people love the K. So they were fighting against that. People, I think, are a little more wary of public subsidies for sports teams, so they're fighting against that. And then, they have community groups who didn't want businesses moved in that area and had concerns about the impact that would have. So they were fighting against that. So, it was frankly kind of a poorly run campaign where they didn't have all their ducks lined up. They didn't have the details ironed out to present to voters. They were changing things at the last minute, days before the election. I felt like the Chiefs had a very half-hearted campaign where they only released their renderings about a month before the election. So maybe we shouldn't have been surprised that it got defeated like it did. We'll have to see what happens next. I'm hopeful they can still work something out where they can stay in downtown Kansas City, but obviously this opens them up to shopping around different jurisdictions in the metro area, whether it's across the river in North Kansas City or across the state line in Kansas. Certainly, I think there's going to be a lot of discussion in Topeka about that. So we'll have to see what happens next, but hopefully they can keep the teams at least in the metro area so that we can enjoy Royals and Chiefs winning championships for the next decade.
Yeah, both on this program and at the State House, I'm sure. Final thing for you, Max. We've got just about 30 seconds here. Do the Royals have to win this series against the White Sox this weekend?
I mean, gosh, you have to feel, you just played the Twins and the Orioles, two teams that finished in first place last year. You get a chance to host the White Sox, who, I mean, looking on paper, they just look like a dreadful team. This is a team that, they're in the playoffs a couple years ago, but there's only a couple guys left in that team. There's a lot of guys that should probably be in AAA right now. And you look at the pitching matchups for this weekend, the Royals should be favored in every one of these games except for maybe Sunday. If they don't get 3 out of 4, you feel like that's a missed opportunity. And 4-game sweeps are tough, but if there's ever an opportunity to do it, it's this weekend. So yeah, you really feel like you got to take advantage of this weekend, and so that's why it's imperative this bullpen has turns things around and can get their house in order, because I think they're going to get solid starting pitching performances against this lineup. It's just going to be a matter of can we hold those leads late in games.
Max Rieper is the editor-in-chief of RoyalsReview.com, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Max, thank you so much for the time, man. Much appreciated. We'll talk to you soon, and enjoy the games this weekend.
Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.
That is Max Rieper from RoyalsReview.com joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. Good stuff from Max, as always. And again, he's the editor-in-chief of RoyalsReview.com. Royals versus White Sox coming up tonight. Must-win series?
Yeah, I think you'd like to get at least 3 here and to get you back close to 500. That would be, I'd get you to 500, in fact, if you get 3 out of 4. That should be the goal. That's a reasonable goal. And White Sox stink, man.
Yeah, they suck.
They're pretty miserable.
They're big buns right now. We will talk about that stadium vote failing in Kansas City coming up on the other side of the break. We'll also talk to Rick Peterson for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Round. We'll get to your texts on the Top City Metal Supply text line. Got some Royals tickets for tomorrow to give away. All that's coming up in the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. now it's the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Across the table from me is Dan Lucero. On the other side of the glass, it's Spencer Dupuis. We're here with you for the next 3 hours here on 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Busy 3 o'clock hour coming your way. We're going to get to the stadium vote here in just a minute. What happened on Tuesday in Jackson County, Missouri. Shocking me. I don't know about you guys. I really do feel shocked by how handily this measure was defeated.
That was the big surprise. That not that it was defeated, that it was defeated so resoundingly.
So we'll get to that momentarily here. Also coming up in this hour, we will have this week's edition of Either Or Over Under. And Rick Peterson from TopSports.News is going to join us for this week's edition of the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around. You can drop a line. Let us know your thoughts on anything we're talking about on the show today on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply is located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. You can also find us on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. You can also find the stream on Facebook, Twitter, and on our website, 580wibw.com. Tuesday was the question 1 vote in Missouri. There were a number of elections going on in the state of Missouri, but one of them was question 1 about the new stadium sales tax. It was a new tax. However, it was the same amount that Jackson County residents were currently being taxed, 3/8 of a cent on sales purchases in Jackson County. That would have gone to helping fund certain renovations, improvements, and moves for the Royals and for the Chiefs. There was a lot of debate about this. We shared our opinions on Tuesday and where we stood. And I had people reach out to me. We had people on the Top City Metal Supply text line and the YouTube comments say it sounded like there were folks in Kansas City who sounded like they were bought to say, vote yes for this. And the Vote Yes campaign, which was being led and organized by former political campaign organizers, not all of them successful political campaigns, they were really in your face with all the marketing materials and pushing the Vote Yes stuff. And then I thought on election day that the vote was going to pass. I agree. I am not shocked the vote failed because, like I said, and like we all agreed on Tuesday, the plans were very slapdash. They were just sort of thrown together. It did not feel very cohesive. The Chiefs, and we'll get to the Chiefs plan here in a moment, was not very convincing. The Royals, the downtown ballpark plan kind of came out of nowhere because it was East Village or Clay County, or by the way, we're going to go downtown across the highway from the Sprint Center.
Right.
Whoa, okay.
They were still hashing out details of a CBA that was not real satisfying to the non-Royals half of that particular negotiation. And they were still hammering those details out 48 hours before the election. Like that to me doesn't say you've got your ducks in a row. And so you have in an election like this, you have the people who are going to vote yes pretty much no matter what, because they love their teams. They love their teams being in town, and they fear the alternative to their teams not being in town, which is their teams being not across state lines, but far away, like
Nashville
or Portland or someplace like
Charlotte.
That. Those people are going to vote yes. This is not a party line thing.
No, it's not.
That was the other part that was really, really funny about the vote yes people. They sent that mailer out that was like, don't let the radical left take away your sports teams. Yes, because if there's anything I know about conservative politics, it's that conservatives love voting for new taxes.
Right.
My whole entire life, that has been true. Conservatives love taxation. They love voting for taxes.
The whole thing was just so poorly put together.
This was never a party line thing. That was so weird. You just have people who were going to vote yes because they want to root for their guys in town and go see them in town. They like the idea of the downtown ballpark, and they're gung-ho yes. Then you have the gung-ho no folks. The no funding private businesses with public funds. You have the no people. Then you have everybody in the middle, the undecided voter. And the reason this was so lopsided is because the undecided voters looked at what was being presented to them and either said, I can't make heads or tails of this. I can't square this, or no, this is a bad deal. Let's do something that's better. Let's do something that makes more sense for Jackson County and makes more sense for Kansas City than these plans, which all kind of felt like when you procrastinate like a book report and you hurry it out like the night before you got to go present it in school.
Yes, did it many times.
That's what this felt like, especially from the Chiefs, where their renderings were just like, here's a VIP thing. Here's a exclusive event thing.
Okay.
Here's an activation thing. Like,
here's a thing for concerts.
Like, did Mark Donovan work on this for longer than 5 minutes? Like, right. What is this?
So let's get to the two teams and how they approached this, right? The Royals come out with a statement from John Sherman right after the fact. He was there with the concession speech happened, and he said, in this statement released by the Royals, we respect the voters of Jackson County and the results of the election today. We will take some time to reflect on and process the outcome and find a path forward that works for the Royals and our fans. The Royals took the real brunt of this because everyone knew, and you pointed this out on Tuesday, Dan. I mean, this was most pushing for this. The Chiefs, in the end, they're going to get whatever they want. The Chiefs did not put out a statement like this. They've made comments since. Mark Donovan has spoken since, but there was no immediate, we need to process the results. There was none of that from the Chiefs. And if you really look closely, and frankly, not even all that closely, at what the Chiefs were proposing the new sales tax money would have gone to at Arrowhead Stadium, it was like a new VIP driveway to the stadium. It was the new activation areas. It was the concert stage. It was more parking.
A new video board, maybe, right?
Yeah. And okay, in the long run, would some of that be nice for some people? Yeah. But to be completely honest with you, if you are working a normal 9 to 5, you live in Jackson County, you live in Raytown, right? And the stadium, you can see the stadium from your backyard. And you work a normal 9 to 5. You make a normal middle class wage. You know what? It's harder and harder to do on middle class wages. And I don't mean to get into class war stuff here, but games are expensive to go to.
Hell yeah, they are.
NFL tickets are crazy expensive to go to.
And when they become even more expensive? One, when you have to pay exorbitant parking fees because there's only one place to park. And two, when the team you're paying to see has won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years.
Right. So if you're that person and you're thinking, well, I would love to go to more games. I wish I could go to more. I love the Chiefs. I love Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and Big Red. And I've supported this team my whole life. Lived in Jackson County my whole life. But if I'm going to a game, I can't afford I'm sitting in the cheap seats. I'm in the 300 level. I can't pay for VIP parking. What is this doing for me? I'm not getting there in time to see Tech 9. Shoot, if it's a night game, I might be working Sunday morning. I might be working the early shift Sunday and getting there for prime time, Sunday Night Football. This doesn't do anything for me. So the Chiefs part of this, and our pal, Jake LeBon, put on Twitter, he thought, I wonder if the Chiefs didn't even want this to pass. And I don't necessarily agree with that take, and he's not the only one who felt that way. But I do think there is something to the Chiefs probably didn't have to go whole hog into this because the Chiefs, as we have said before, are going to get whatever they want. I referenced this comment a couple of times from Quentin Lucas, the mayor of Kansas City. He put this on Twitter on November 29th of 2023 in a thread about the stadium and a certain host in Kansas City I mentioned earlier who said, I am told that the Royals and Chiefs are both likely leaving Jackson County. That was said on November 29th of 23. Quentin Lucas said, I will let other governments speak for themselves. The Royals and Chiefs will continue to play in Kansas City, Missouri, and adds this. And while current negotiations certainly are relevant to the Chiefs, every level of government, particularly at the state level with Governor Parson, will continue to ensure the Chiefs play in Missouri. I don't need to get into Missouri politics all that much to tell you that Quentin Lucas and Governor Mike Parson probably don't agree on a whole lot, okay? And Quentin Lucas had no problem saying, oh, yeah, governor's going to get involved. Chiefs will be fine. They're not going anywhere. Nate Taylor shared this the night of the vote. This is what Clark Hunt told me last week, Nate Taylor of The Athletic. If the vote didn't pass, quote, our belief is that the voters are going to approve the extension of the sales tax. We're not focused on what happens if it doesn't pass, but certainly we'll have to consider all of our alternatives. We're not focused on what happens if it doesn't pass. If It's a binary. It's one or the other. It is, in theory, 50-50 what happens, and you're not even going to plan for half of it?
I think that's how startled they were that it didn't. I think really both sides of this came into this extremely arrogantly and thought, well, whatever we put in front of the voters, they're going to go for it. Because, I mean, if you're the Chiefs, why wouldn't you think that way? We're the Super Bowl champions. If you're the Royals, why wouldn't you think that way? We've been here since 1969. Like, there is a certain amount of arrogance that the Chiefs and the Royals approach this with, and it takes a lot of fortitude, let's call it, particularly from the Chiefs' perspective, to say, well, we're gonna have to explore other options. We might have to explore other options if we don't get what we want from the voters. I ask you this sincerely, Clark Hunt, Mark Donovan, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? Where are you going? Where is your organization? Where are you as one of 32 NFL teams? Where are you going to go? You going to move to London? You're going to move to London? You're going to move to Sao Paulo, Brazil? Is that what you're going to do? Are you going to be that franchise? Or do you realize that you've got the goose that lays the golden eggs, that you are one of the biggest brands in the NFL, and that part of the reason you're a big brand is because you've had years and years of great support in Kansas City? That Kansas City has made the Chiefs. You're not going anywhere. And so there was, to a large extent, a calling of a bluff that took place with this vote. For John Sherman and for Clark Hunt / Mark Donovan, the Chiefs front office, say, yeah, where are you going to go? Where do you think you're going to go that's going to be better for you than this community, than this city, than this metro area have been for you? Where are you going to go?
You bring that up, and I feel like the national media has just taken off with this in the last few days.
Yep.
And big publications, Washington Post, New York Times, things like that, they're saying, well, where do they go now? They can relocate. And then the Dallas mayor says he wants them to come. Like, they're not going to move. I mean, the success they've had here, the roots that both teams have put down, just because you don't win this vote doesn't mean you can't go and change it and try to have it voted on again.
Also, it is very funny that Dallas's mayor said this.
Yes.
As long as Jerry Jones is alive, there ain't going to be any more football in Texas at the NFL level, folks. Right. I hate to break it to you. That ain't happening. He doesn't want a team in Austin, okay? You think he's going to allow because Jerry Jones is the real commissioner of the NFL. We all agree, right? He's the shadow commissioner.
The shadow commissioner.
Yeah. He ain't bringing another team to North Texas. Give me a break. But that, I think, is significant. And you're going to see more stories and more headlines like that. I do not think the Chiefs will ever leave Arrowhead Stadium, at least not in the foreseeable future. I think they are going to get money, some sort of money, to stay at what is currently known as the Truman Sports Complex. They'll get renovations to Arrowhead however they want it to look. They will get to build Chiefsville on what is currently the K. And I don't think the Royals are leaving the Kansas City metro area. I really don't. They might not be in Jackson County. They might not be on the Missouri side of the river. But I do not think they are going to metro.
I don't think either team, this is the way I have phrased it, either franchise is going to play any further from the city center of Kansas City, Missouri than they already do.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know the exact mileage to the Truman Sports Complex versus the Legends, but no, I'm in agreement with you.
Basically, give or take, you know what I mean? Like that's really where I'm at with this. And for the Royals in particular, they have a burden of proof that, number one, the place they're playing is no longer suitable for their fans, is no longer suitable for the organization. Like, when this is going on in Oakland, and that ballpark is crumbling. That's why you had Rob Manfred step in, right? Part of the reason is to say, look, this isn't a tenable place for a Major League Baseball team to play. Like, we've got to get, we have to have an upgraded facility that is Major League caliber for one of our 30 organizations to play in. It's the same thing in Tampa Bay. That's why you haven't had expansion yet, because Major League Baseball has to fix those two problems. And that's why they're rushing through the whole A's to Las Vegas thing, because once they get the A's ironed out and once they get a new stadium in Tampa St. Pete, then they can move forward with expansion. That's what they're trying to do. That's why Rob Manfred is involved. That's why you've heard him remark so much about the condition of Oakland Coliseum. He said a mumbling word about Kauffman Stadium. And you know why? Because it's in perfectly fine shape. When the Royals tried to tell us, oh, the concrete is in bad shape, it's bad concrete, people push back on that. Now they don't talk about the concrete anymore because they know it's nonsense. That park is in perfectly good shape. Could it use some fine-tuning, some upgrades here and there? Absolutely it could. Any freestanding stadium building that's been around as long as Kauffman Stadium has, yes, can use some rehab, some fine-tuning.
Yeah.
But you cannot tell me that the condition of the stadium is keeping the Royals from providing a major league product to their fans and for their players and for the Players Association. So that's the one thing. That's where you have to start. And if it's not that the stadium is in bad shape, then what do we really need a new stadium for? Why does John Sherman want a new stadium? It got nothing to do with the stadium, guys. It's got to do with being a landlord. It's got to do with owning all the property around the stadium and being a landlord and making money off of the piece of land you own where your team plays 365 days of the year instead of just the 81 home dates that you have for your baseball team. That's what this is about. And the voters in Jackson County and in Kansas City have every right to say, if that's what you want to do, one, pay for more / all of it yourself. Two, show us your work. How does this benefit us in a meaningful way? How is this a positive beyond a glittering new place to watch baseball and a Whataburger 2 blocks from home plate that John Sherman owns and profits off of? Show me the work. That's where the Royals failed. They didn't show enough of that work. And so even people who might have been inclined to say, I want the Royals in Kansas City, I love the idea of a downtown stadium, I just can't vote for this. And that's how you lose as big as the Royals and the Chiefs did at the ballot box the other day.
Well, and to your point, I think that may be part of the reason that the Royals wanted to move, and it was an agreement with the Chiefs. Like, you can have our land here, you can do what you want with it, you can make money off it. We're going to move to downtown. We're going to have this whole area, and we're going to make money off it too.
A lot of comments in here. Appreciate all you guys who are chiming in, both on the Top City Metal Supply text line, also in the YouTube feed. Got a bunch from here. Ryan on YouTube says, I'm not surprised. It was an atrocious campaign by the Chiefs and Royals. No disagreement from me. Lori says it was a very sloppy campaign. Actually just wrote slop, which I think is much funnier. Yeah. It was slop. No, it was pig slop. It absolutely was. Mark says he agrees. Don't think the Chiefs and Royals are going to leave. I don't think anyone rationally thinks so. And this is from Liam on Twitter, our guy Liam, who says if there's no downtown, make the Truman Sports Complex like Philadelphia, or there's a number of cities that are like this where everything is all together and you can build up the whole thing and not just have football there. And Dan, you're right. I mean, it's about owning the land where you are. And I mean, shoot, would you be all that surprised if the governor of Missouri got involved? And I don't know what the bylaws and the paperwork look like, but if the concession to the Chiefs was actually you own the Truman Sports Complex now, like, would you be surprised by that?
No,
if they could make it legally work.
So one of the upsides of working the last 4 months with Beltway Sports Insider Spencer Dupuis is that I have learned a great deal, more than I ever intended to learn, about the ongoing soap opera between the owner of the Wizards and Capitals, Ted Leonsis, and the state governments of both, the state government of Virginia and now the city government of Washington, D.C. And I could see what has happened there happening in Kansas City, which is basically Ted Leonsis. Is it fair to say, Spencer, that after the plan in Virginia fell apart, there was a bit of an end run done around the voters and directly to the city council, and the city council has authorized these $500 million in upgrades to what's it called, Capital One Arena?
Yes, and I think a lot of that in there too was Ted is friends with the governor of Maryland, so he could have made a run at moving to Maryland after it failed.
So with that threat, he was still able to go to the city council of Washington, D.C. and say, hey, break me off. And the city council said, okay, we'll do it. Could you see Clark Hunt, Mark Donovan, John Sherman trying to pull the same end run? Couldn't you?
Sure.
Couldn't you see them running 65 toss power trap right to the city council, right to the mayor's office and saying, hey, people aren't going to give it to us. What if you guys did? What if you guys just decided we get this money?
Hey, I have a question. What is the land?
I hope I have an answer.
What is the land that's to the, I don't know, I guess south of the Truman Complex, like where the interstate is, right? So the interstate's here.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Royals, then you have the Chiefs. Who owns the property below that? Because why couldn't you just build it all up near there? Is that like protected land or something? Because it appears there's a good amount of land below the end of the parking lots.
I do not know exactly who owns all that is down there, truthfully. That is a good question that I cannot give you an answer for. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of houses and stuff down there too, though.
But
it
looks like there's just like a bunch of like a foresty area between the parking lot and a neighborhood. And like where the National Guard area is.
I would have to give you
probably
National Guard land on that. Yeah, I mean, again, the point remains that you don't have to go where the Royals have been trying to go. Like, there's so many different options for what you could end up doing here. And part of the problem, too, is that the first thing John Sherman did after buying the team was talk about a new stadium. Stadium, give me stadium. If you had approached this differently, this vote passes. I really think so. A more slowly and well put together campaign plus just different wording, and I think this thing passes instead of getting embarrassed.
They could come back, get their ducks in a row, put something together that's coherent, and get it back on the ballot in November, which don't know if you guys are aware. Pretty big election year, 2024, as it turns out. Presidential election year. That means you get a lot more people to the ballot boxes.
Yep.
Instead of just the 24% of Jackson County and Kansas City citizens who voted on this measure, you'd pass it. They'd pass it.
I think so.
And they'd get whatever they wanted as long as it was coherent.
I couldn't believe the vote was so lopsided, but at the same time,
it was a blowout.
If they didn't want it to
they called it before 9:00.
Yeah, it was wild. It really was wild. Run a better campaign. That's essentially what it comes down to. Rick Peterson is going to join us coming up a little bit later on this hour for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Round. We've got either or over under coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. Either or over under time on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, Spencer here with you. just speaking of sporting events in general, would you rather go to a game or watch it at home?
Just in general?
Any sporting event. Dan and Spencer, you are invited to come watch sports game ball with me today. We can either go to the game or we can watch it at home. Which would you rather do?
Well, there are a lot of pros to watching it at home.
A lot of pros to both.
Yeah.
Watching at home, beer's cheaper. And
no line for the bathroom.
No line for the bathroom. Yeah, snacks, a lot cheaper. That's a positive. I mean, it really does depend on the game.
Yeah.
To me, like, I would rather go to a baseball game than watch one on TV. I like being at the park more than I mean, baseball is my favorite sport. I still like watching it on TV more than the average person, but I like being at the ballpark. There's no substitute for can't beat fun at the old ballpark. Football, much rather watch that on television than watch that in person. So it really does. It depends on the sport. Probably on balance. On balance, I'd say I prefer to go than watch on TV, but there are certainly exceptions.
I think you ask me at times of the month.
Okay.
You know, maybe the 15th of every month or the end of every month. I'm a yes. But maybe like the 10th of the month or like the 25th of the month, I'm a no.
Where are you the 4th of the month?
Probably a no, because I would have just paid my rent and my car payment.
What if it's a free ticket?
If it's a free ticket, then yes.
I bought the tickets.
Oh, then I'd go.
I would probably go. The funny thing about the NFL, and they sell out all their games, but the funny thing is they have made such a great TV product. They really have, with the ability to watch Red Zone or to have Sunday Ticket, or, you know, the fact that if you like tweeting along during a game, during commercial breaks, gives you a chance to, like, it's a really good TV product, and this in-person product has suffered a little bit. Now, they've trimmed TV breaks a little bit in the last couple of years, so the NFL has been helped. College football in person, as much as I love, like, there are very few things like a college football environment when you go to a great game. It is brutal. Like, if you CBS this fall, when you get Penn State, Michigan, 2:30 kick on CBS, that game is going to take 4.5 hours. Yeah. It is brutal. Even games at K-State or KU take forever when they're just on FS1. They take so long. And there's so much dead time. I would say that too. Like, I've noticed this watching, like, whenever I would watch Marshall basketball games on ESPN Plus versus I guess going to or tuning into like Big 12 Now games. Totally different, because the advertising that you can move out, that you can push out the breaks a little bit more. You can full timeouts. You're going to take a full break. Like, you're going to do different things for different conferences, making different amounts of money. All right. You two have an either or over under today?
Either or. Which national semifinal basketball games are you most excited to watch? The men's or the women's? This is an easy answer for me. It's the women's. Because you're not getting anything in the men's games, either of the men's games, that add up to the spectacle that is Caitlin Clark versus Paige Beckers. Also, I predict both men's games could be blowouts. And I think the women's games are going to be more competitive, minute 1 to minute 40. So it's the women without thinking twice.
I think one of the women's games will be more competitive. I think North Carolina State's going to consider dropping women's basketball after they play South Carolina.
I'll tell you what, South Carolina's looked a little shaky in the regional round. They
playing with their food.
You think so?
Playing with their food.
Think they're bored?
Yes. Okay. I think they're extremely bored. I think Dawn Staley is one of the best coaches in basketball. Not women's basketball, basketball. There's a reason she interviewed for the Trailblazers job a couple years ago. She is an incredible coach. And she knows what else she is? She is an incredible motivator. And if she wants them to put up 100 points, I think they can put up 100 points. I do agree the best game of the group will be UConn, Iowa women, though.
Yes.
I would agree with that 100%.
I'd say women's.
It's probably the women's. I mean, it's just, like, North Carolina State keeps winning, but at the same time, the logical move is to keep betting on them to lose, because they're still the worst team in every game they've played since the first round of the tournament.
Yes, at some point you stop.
Or second round of the tournament.
At some point you stop being able to pull off the upsets,
unless you have Kemba Walker. But that UConn team was a lot better than this NC State team.
Yes.
So no, the women have the best individual game. I don't even think arguable. You have one today?
Yes, it'd be an over-under. With the roster the way it currently is with the new transfers coming in, Dickinson and Furphy, if they're staying, because that's how it looks right now, they're still on the roster. And the freshmen they have coming in, I have the over-under for Big 12 wins for KU at 15.5 next year. They went 10-8 this year, so.
It's hard to win. Still a 20. Is it? They going to 20 next year? Or is it still 16? I guess that's the first question.
I think it's still 18.
Yeah, because if it's
still
18, I think the days of anybody going 16-2 in the league are past. So that's an under for me pretty easily. But like 14, 15, absolutely.
What if I changed it to 14.5? Because that's what I originally had it at.
Okay. 14.5. Yeah, I see that's 14 still feels about right. Like 13, 14, as competitive as the league is going to be next year. And I haven't done like a deep dive into the schedule yet either, but I'd expect them to settle somewhere 13, 14 wins.
I don't know if this is
so you're taking the under.
I don't know if this was ever confirmed. They are, according to a report from Media Day, they are expected to play 20 next year.
Because if they're playing 20, then I go over 14.5. Yeah.
I would go over 14.5.
But I would
go under 15.5 though. Yeah. I think that's just the smart play. It's such a deep league that it's so many games.
It's going to be really hard to win 16 out of 20 league games in the Big 12.
I'd say 15 is the magic number.
All right, so 14.5 is what I'll keep it at.
Yeah, I would go over that.
Yeah, I go over that too.
I think KU's going to be pretty nasty next year. I really do. We'll talk some more college basketball, a lot, in fact, in the 4 o'clock hour. First, though, we owe you a commercial break, and then Rick Peterson joins us for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around next on 580 Sports Talk.
It's every Thursday at this time that we are joined by Rick Peterson of TopSports.news for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around. Pistol covers high school sports in Shawnee County, as well as Washburn University athletics like no one else over at TopSports.news. You can also find him on Twitter at Peterson_Rick. Pistol, have we gotten really settled into the spring routine now that everything is in action?
Yeah, and everything is in action. It's all busy about every day. The only thing that kind of interrupts that is, well, it's been more cold weather than anything this year. But no, we're getting into a routine. I'm on my way to Wamego right now to cover the Western Rural Golf Invitational, and we got some big events coming up, and of course Washburn Spring Game on Saturday. So yeah, it's a fun time of year, but a busy time.
Absolutely. And let's start with the sport that you're headed out to see, because we haven't gotten a chance to talk golf or tennis on the spring sports scene. Golf season really just now getting kind of ramped up and underway.
Yeah.
What are the storylines you're following in the county for golf? I know there's some outstanding individuals.
Yeah, no. Let's see. Miles Alonso is very good for Topeka West. Washburn Rural always has a bunch of good players. Hayden was a state qualifier. Silver Lake and Rossville have very good golf teams. So, you always kind of start with rural because they're the deepest team. And then, like I said, go from there.
They are in action today, you said, in Wamego. Any other local schools out there?
Oh, yeah. I think Topeka West will come, at least bring Alonzo. I think Topeka High usually comes. Yeah, there'll be several. I never worry about it too much till I get here because I know there's going to be plenty to cover.
Absolutely. I mentioned tennis as well. They're just getting their season really rolling, and you had a chance to cover some tennis earlier this week at the Topeka West Quadrangular. You saw Washburn Rural go 3-0 in that quadrangular boys tennis season. Tell me a little bit about what you saw there and who you're excited to see on the courts.
Well, and Topeka West is the defending state champion, but of course they lost a really good senior class. They got a good doubles team coming back. They got a good singles player coming back. They did not play their top six yesterday. Washburn Rural did play their top six, and they've won three straight competitions to start the season. And over that time, including an invitational tournament, they've only lost one total match. So they're undefeated while winning 98% or whatever of their matches. So they're off to a good. They got some good seniors, but they also got a very good sophomore class. So they're a team to watch out. They were a regional champion last year, so they're a team to watch out for. There's going to be some good players scattered out, but Topeka West and Washburn Rural probably are at the top of the list as far as teams right now, anyway.
You mentioned Topeka West, defending champions in Class 5A, had the Cusick twins win the doubles state championship last year. Who are going to be the standard bearers for the Chargers as they look to defend that title this year?
Well, Caden McGee, who we saw in basketball too, he's a very good player, and he placed in doubles last year. I think he's the team leader. James Mogg was a state placer in singles. He's been sick right now, but he'll be a very good player. And then the key for them is to finding some guys, particularly at singles and at the number two doubles, that can kind of keep them up towards the top. They'll be a UKC power again, and then we'll just have to see how much balance they have going into regionals and state.
Rick Peterson of TopSports.News is our guest. This is Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around here on 580 Sports Talk, as we talk all things Shawnee County high school sports in this segment. We do it every Thursday at this time on the program. Speaking of the United Kansas Conference, you've gotten to see a couple of their girls' soccer programs early on this season, recently taking in victories for the Seaman girls over at Topeka West and the Shawnee Heights girls over at Topeka High. Two programs with some really good tradition, and both appear to be off to be pretty good starts.
Yes. Shawnee Heights has a really good freshman class, including Morgan Campbell, who I think's up to, I don't know, let's see, 6, 8, 10, gets 11 goals, I think, now. So she's really good, and they got some other good freshmen. Seaman had a tie against Manhattan, which was fourth in 6A last year, and they're impressive. I watched them the other night, and those two teams play each other tonight. That's one of those things where I wish I could be two places, because that'll be a heck of a game. But Hayden is also very good in soccer, and so is Care Paravel. So it's kind of crowded in the city for soccer.
Have you gotten to see Care Paravel play yet? I know you got to see Hayden.
Yeah, no, I have seen Hayden. I had Todd out to see, Todd Fertig out to see Care Paravel. Again, I'd love to see, they play, I think it's Seaman on Saturday morning, but I need to go to the Washburn football spring game. So it's just one of those, you always have a lot of good events in the spring, and unfortunately a lot of them are going on at the same time.
That's a fact. So many sports, so many options. Rick Peterson covers it for topsports.news, joining us here for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around. Last Friday, you got to see some baseball. Always a great series when Washburn Rural and Seaman get together. The two split a doubleheader. What did you see? What stood out to you from the performances of the Junior Blues and the Vikings in that one?
Yeah, and I saw two doubleheaders back-to-back, rural in both of them, but rural against Topeka High was a heck of a doubleheader, and then as you mentioned, rural versus Seaman. And both of them, the team that rode the hot pitcher won the games, and both of them were splits. But I got to see Nate Plankinson of Topeka High just throw a great game, and then the other day in the Seaman rural game, Colin Rediker, two-hitter for Washburn Rural to salvage a split with 11 strikeouts. So, I think the pitching is a little bit ahead of the hitting early in the season, and I think slowly that catches up a little bit. But right now, it seems the hot arms are the teams that are carrying them.
We know that Washburn Rural is looking for a bit of a bounce-back year on the diamond. Seaman, of course, 19 straight years going to the state tournament, which I believe it is the record for most consecutive state tournament appearances. The standard of talent, the standard of play from those programs look to be about like what you expect it to be, even granting the allowance for the pitching being ahead of the offense at this stage.
Yeah, what changes things now is with the pitch count rules, and I think you got to have them, but with the pitch count rules, if you got 3 or 4 arms, good arms, you're challenging for a state title. If you got 1 or 2 good arms, you're going to struggle some because, like last week, some of the very good pitchers on those staffs I mentioned, couldn't throw on Friday because they had already used their pitch count. So that really comes into play. The deeper the pitching staff, the better the team.
And it's an expanded schedule this year, too, for the first time, right? The teams have the option to play more games if they're able?
Yeah, you just said the key term there, if they're able. Because if we get 3 or 4 days of rain a couple weeks, they won't even get to their current limit, what they've had. So, we've had several teams over the years that couldn't even get all their games in because we hit a rainy stretch. But yeah, and I haven't went through and count every team's schedule to see how many trying to play extra games, but we get to mid-May and it's it's sometimes a little challenge even to get all your games in.
Rick Peterson of topsports.news joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. This is the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around, which we do every Thursday at this time on the program. Wanted to ask about the weekend to come, Rick. What events do you have your eyes on this Friday, Saturday that will be of some local interest?
Well, I think I'm going to go out to Seaman tomorrow and watch our softball team play, and they're very good. And then, like I said, on Saturday, I'm going to the Washburn spring game. Those aren't true spring games or scrimmages, but I just like to get a look at teams, and particularly with Washburn really facing a bounce-back year, and also they have so many good local kids and more to come that I enjoy getting a look at them in the spring, too.
What in particular, if we can stay on the topic of the Washburn spring game, because I know we'll have some folks with some interest in that, what in particular are you going to have your eye on as far as, obviously there's but so much you can tell from a scrimmage, but just some players, sides of the ball, position groups that you'll be watching with interest?
Well, I think the thing that I'll be looking for, is to see, who's out on the field really, because I think that Washburn, most of those guys that were hurt last year, and there was a ton of them, are back. And so now you got the luxury of putting those guys in, but also having very good depth because you had so many young kids last year that had to play, maybe some of them before they were ready. So I think what I want to see is how much, I think they'll have a lot of depth. I think they'll be running players in and out. I think they got a couple good quarterbacks. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I want to see the receivers. I definitely want to see the receivers. I think they'll have a good receiving court. I think last year it was just a case of how do we replace J.J. Letcher, and Peter Apple, because those guys had like 95% of their catches. So I think we'll see more of a wide open team this year.
Pistol, if Coach Schurig needs anyone out there to fill in on a couple of drills, you ready to suit up with me, get a couple reps in?
No, definitely. That's a definite no. No, I don't even I hear all these horror stories about these guys getting run over on the sidelines and everything. They're going to have to go to the parking lot to run over me. So I'm very, very cautious, and that's why I've lasted so long.
Last thing I wanted to get to on this, Pistol, not a lot of coaching vacancies in the area when it comes to basketball. Obviously, Rick Bloomquist stepping aside at Topeka West, and both girls programs at Topeka West and Topeka High finished the season with interim head coaches. Do you have any idea on the timelines for the searches for those? And do you expect any news on hirings anytime soon for those 3 vacancies? And do you think those will be the only ones?
I haven't heard of any others. So yeah, we'll say those are the only ones at this point. And what I would say about that, Dan, is you better hurry. You better hurry because summer is so important now for these teams with the loosened restrictions over the last several years that you want to get your summer stuff all set up. And I think it will, if they don't hurry, I think some people that would be interested in a job will become uninterested because they're worried about getting all their stuff set up, and maybe they're just figure, hey, it's better if I just stay here. So I think they need to do April better be a pretty busy month for those hirings. If in West Girls, if Angie Ketterman wants it, she better have it. I mean, I thought she did a great job after they had so much turnover in that job. I thought she did a great job with Topeka West, and if she wants it, it should be hers. Rick Bloomquist's job, I think there'll be a lot of good candidates. And Topeka High, I think I heard that one of the assistants is interested, and we'll just have to wait on that one. But I think you want to get everything settled by, at the very least, May 1st.
Rick Peterson will have the breaking news certainly on that and all other high school sports news in Shawnee County, as well as coverage of Washburn University athletics at topsports.news. He joins us every Thursday at this time for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around. Pistol, is always a pleasure. Enjoy the golf. Steer clear of any wayward 3-woods, and we will talk to you next week.
Look forward to it.
That is the great Rick Peterson with the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around. Spring football for Washburn Saturday as well. That's
hype for it.
Yeah. You gonna be there?
I will be there. Yep. Hoping to talk with Coach Schurig, in fact, hear that coming up on the show sometime next week. Yeah, it's a big offseason for Washburn. I mean, all you have to do is know what last season was like. Look at the recruiting class that's coming in this year. It's a good class, man. We talked all high school football season, and we've talked with Pistol since then during the offseason about just how much local talent there was. Washburn scooped up a lot of our local players. It is a big year for Washburn football, so I'm really excited to get out there, see some of those young quarterbacks that Pistol was talking about, and should be a lot of fun coming up on Saturday at Yager Stadium. We've got to get to a break here for the news at the top of the hour. Big hour of college basketball coming up at 4 o'clock. We'll talk Zeke Mayo to KU, Doug McDaniel to K-State. CJ Moore will join us. Plus, we've got What Is Wrong With You, your texts and your YouTube comments. All that coming up after the news on 580 Sports Talk. It's the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk on a Thursday afternoon. Brendan Dworzynski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, all hanging out with you today. Full 4 o'clock hour coming up. A lot of college basketball to get to. Zeke Mayo, Doug McDaniel, CJ Moore. He's not playing. He's just going to talk with us from the Final Four. Royals baseball on tonight. 6 o'clock pregame start time here on your home for the Royals Radio Network, 580 WIBW. 6:40 first pitch tonight. Mark on YouTube says, if the Royals can't take at least 3 from the putrid White Sox, something is wrong. I think that's kind of the consensus feeling at this point. Royals should win this weekend series. We would love to hear your thoughts on the Royals, KU, K-State, stadium tax vote, any of that. On either YouTube, 580 Sports Talk is the name of the YouTube channel. Go subscribe if you haven't already. We would appreciate that a great deal. Pardon me. Or you can find us and leave us a note, your thoughts on anything we're talking about on the show on the Top City Metal Supply text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. No more wasting money on metal pieces that leave you with unnecessary leftovers, because Top City Metal Supply will cut the exact lengths of aluminum, steel, and stainless steel you need tailored to your project's specifications. Start optimizing your budget with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field, here in the capital city. We'll get to some final thoughts on the Royals coming up in the 5 o'clock hour today as we look ahead to the matchup with the White Sox tonight in Chicago. Or pardon me, it's at home.
Yeah,
they're back home.
They're Arrowhead tonight.
Had been on
Arrowhead. Kaufman tonight.
Now that would be something. That is when you could have my public money, Chiefs and Royals. Put them together. I want another
cookie
football
cutter
team, baseball team shared stadium.
Return.
Bring it back
to the era of the cookie cutter.
I think we, in our headlines later, we'll discuss one team that had that at one point and where they're going to go temporarily.
Good tease.
Yeah.
Well done. So we'll get to that. A lot to get to in headlines today. I'm going to get so mad about the then, now, at some point, nevermore Oakland A's.
I saw a quote. I think it's the owner or the GM. I'll have to go back and find it now. I was on Twitter as I was scrolling.
Is this the Aaron Judge quote?
Yeah.
Yes. Save this for headlines because it is so unbelievable. Well, I mean, it's entirely
I almost
believable.
audibly laughed out loud with my mic on, but luckily I didn't.
They're a Ponzi scheme. They really are a Ponzi scheme at this point. But we get to college basketball first here to lead off this 4 o'clock hour. Big week in the portal for both KU and K-State. I want to start with KU. This actually happened shortly after we went off the air on Tuesday, late afternoon, early evening. Zeke Mayo, the Summit League Player of the Year, 2-time first team All-Summit League at South Dakota State, Lawrence native, childhood friend of Devin Neal. He committed to KU on Tuesday night. Over 18 points a game last year, 39% from three-point range. He can rebound it decently. He's a good athlete. He can move the ball decently well, too. I don't know if he's your starting 2 or if he's your super 6-man right now. Probably depends on what the rest of the portal season looks like for KU. But this is huge for Kansas because you needed to add athleticism. What has KU done with its 2 portal additions so far? Super athlete in Riley Kugel, plus athlete in Zeke Mayo as well. You had to get a guy who can shoot the ball. I just told you Zeke Mayo shot 39% plus from three-point range this year. Shot creation. He's not an NBA level shot creator, but most college players are not. And for what it's worth, Mayo is going to go through the NBA draft process as well, as he should. But he can create his own shot a little bit. And I understand there are some KU fans that are hesitant about mid-major additions to KU because Nick Timberlake has not worked out. Joe Yesufu did not work out. That Alabama's in the Final Four with almost entirely a mid-major transfer starting 5.
Yeah.
You can win with those guys. KU has won with guys who've transferred up from smaller schools before. You just have to get the right pieces and make sure that all the pieces fit well together. Can he play next to DeJuan Harris? If those are your top 2 guards, can those 2 play next to each other? If the answer is yes, and I think it resoundingly is, then this is great. This is as good of a piece as you could have hoped for.
So Sam Vecini broke this down for The Athletic in a way that I thought was really interesting. That Kansas, we talked in broad terms about their lack of bucket getters. And while in the modern era, there are not a lot of teams that encourage shooting mid-range jumpers, like especially in the NBA, the mid-range has been almost entirely phased out.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not a threat to hit a 15-foot jumper, you get a lot easier to guard.
Yep.
And Kansas didn't have anybody, with the exception of Kevin McCullough, who could get downhill and then pull up and give you a 15-foot jumper. He was the only one.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else could do that. Elmarco Jackson couldn't do that. DeJuan Harris certainly is not that guy who's going to do that. So it just makes you easier to guard when you don't have the threat of scoring from outside the painted area. Well, now what Zeke Mayo is somebody who's really good at shooting pull-up jumpers, really good at shooting those step-back three-pointers. And what that gives you a chance to do is facilitate offense through him. Vecini suggests that him and Hunter Dickinson in dribble handoff action is going to be really, really hard for people to guard. Because not only do you have to stay up on the ball handler Mayo, you also have to stay up on Hunter Dickinson because he's as good a mid-range shooter as KU has and is certainly capable. And now his jumper kind of wandered off down the stretch this season a little bit, but he's still somebody who is enough of a capable threat from the mid-range and from behind the arc that if you pair him in the pick and roll or pair him in dribble handoff actions with somebody else who is also a threat, that's how you're going to get back rolling on offense if you're Kansas. Because what Kansas is coming off of is the worst offensive team in the Bill Self era. And to improve that, you had to go get a guy with what Vecini describes as pull-up shooting gravity. Like bringing the defense out to guard you because they have to respect you as a threat.
Yeah.
Mayo is that. And I'm fascinated to see how he will interact with Hunter Dickinson because I think the more that you have players that you have to guard outside the paint, the better that's going to make Hunter Dickinson because he's going to get more one-on-ones. The double teams won't be as quick to descend.
You needed to add shooting. You needed to add shot creation because if for no other reason than, the fact that you just didn't have any and you have to be able to at least hit some threes, I think that's the big reason why Dickinson's shot fell off because it's a lot harder when you're exhausted because you're being pounded constantly because you're the only offensive threat a team has.
Yeah.
And how many times have you heard me just since the season ended, frankly, since the regular season ended, saying any problems people have with Hunter Dickinson, the majority of them, maybe not defense, but on offense, the majority of them, I think, are because he did not have enough help, especially when Kevin McCullough got hurt. He needed more help. This is more help. This is a really good offensive player. And if you're concerned about, well, he did it against Summit League competition, he also did it as option number 1 and number 2 at South Dakota State against Summit League competition. He's got Hunter Dickinson he's playing with now. He has Riley Kugel, DeJuan Harris, maybe Johnny Furphy, maybe another transfer wing or guard, maybe Elmarco Jackson. And granted, Elmarco was not good as a freshman. I understand that. But this is not going to be a one-man show. He is going to be a contributor, not necessarily the only guy. If he is going to be your superstar at the 2 and as your essentially secondary ball handler, fine. Great. Awesome. KU's probably going to be really good in that case. But he doesn't have to do all of that. He should get some open looks. This is going to make things easier on DeJuan Harris as well. If KU can add another big guard or wing, I think it will be the ideal scenario for Kansas this offseason because you don't have to have DeJuan Harris out there then for 38-plus minutes every single game. You can use a little bit of Zeke Mayo at the 1. You can go with Harris and another guard who's a bigger guy at the 2. There's a lot more flexibility you can use. There are a lot more options you can go to if you're Kansas in that position. And how cool is this to have Zeke Mayo come back to KU? Devin Neal was part of the recruiting pitch.
Yeah.
Like they brought this man in like, hey, come tell your buddy to come home. I saw today, this was on the VIP side of 24/7 and fog.net. So always recommend you go subscribe. And I don't want to give away Eric Bossy's work for free because he puts in a lot of work. But he said essentially a lot of people in the business thought really highly of Zeke Mayo. And the reason that this went so quickly is because a lot of teams around college basketball had a feeling they knew where he was going to end up. That when KU reached out, it's your hometown team. You grew up going to KU games. One of your best friends plays on the football team. makes it a much easier decision.
Yeah, Michael Swain said he had another visit scheduled for next week.
At Oklahoma, I believe.
Yeah.
Was it Oklahoma? I think it was OU.
It was.
Yeah.
He was down to KU, OU, Texas, and I forget Creighton. I
Creighton.
think was in his Final Four. And once he got to Kansas, I think they were not going to let him off campus.
Yeah,
They put on the full court press, and it's a really cool thing that he'll be the first Lawrence kid to make a real on-court impact for KU since Brady Morningstar, and the first Lawrence High kid since Danny Manning and Chris Piper to make a real impact.
Been a minute.
Yeah, to say the least. It has been a while since a Lawrence Chesty Lion was an impact guy for the Jayhawks. So it's a really cool thing that Zeke Mayo has a chance to do, and I think he's going to be a really good fit and a really good scorer. Just ask Iowa State, because that was the best defensive team, one of the best defensive teams in the country, and Zeke Mayo got his in the NCAA tournament against Iowa State. He is a good enough player to produce at a high level at this level.
I think KU's hit a home run so far. And I know there are flaws that come with Riley Kugel. I know Zeke Mayo is not a perfect player. This is what you needed. You knew all the things you had to go get. You went out and got them. That's a big deal.
and that's if the roster stays how it is.
Sure. Well, and I imagine
You got to think about what if Furphy goes to the draft,
for what it's worth, I think he will. I don't think
especially after the
yeah.
no NIL opportunity for him.
The draft is so bad. Like we talked about this the other day when Riley Kugel committed. I cannot emphasize enough how miserably awful this NBA draft is. Maybe the worst of all time. This might be worse than 2000, which is that still the standard for worst draft of all time? The 2000 draft? The Anthony Bennett draft was pretty bad too, but at least Victor Oladipo was in that class.
Thought it was the 19 no, that's the great one. My mistake. Gosh, what year was it? Was it 98? That was Ola Candy going number one, but they had good depth. It was Kmart draft. Yeah, so 2000.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely 2000.
There were 3 players who made an all-star game at any point in their career that came out of that draft. Kenyon Martin, Jamal McGlure, and Michael Redd. Michael Redd was the second rounder.
Yeah,
even.
second round
That's
pick.
it. That is one of the worst drafts of all. The number 2 pick was Stromile Swift.
Man, I thought Stromile Swift was going to be a good NBA player.
Chris Mim went top 10. Although Jamal Crawford did have a really good career.
Yeah, like Dermar Johnson got in the car wreck. I liked his game. Nugget great, Dermar Johnson. But, yeah, man, it's really
Lottery pick Mateen Cleaves.
Yeah. I guess the 14th pick would have been just outside the lottery at that
time.
But
That's true.
yeah, Mateen Cleaves went 14th overall.
That's bad. And this draft might be worse. It very really might be worse than that draft was. So I would not be surprised at all if he ends up leaving. By the way, one of the pictures that went viral on KU Twitter and KU social media after the commitment for Zeke Mayo, because he posted it, Devin Neal, Zeke Mayo, and Andrew Wiggins at a KU basketball camp. Wiggins was only here for 1 year. Yeah. That was also my freshman year. I feel so old looking at Devin Neal, who is built like a house, and Zeke Mayo, who's not exactly small, as small children.
Yeah.
They were like 10 or 11 when that happened. Damn. Made me feel very old.
Wiggins' freshman year was also the year I moved to the state of Kansas. So that year also, like, wow, guess I've been here a while.
It was a long time ago. I was there almost getting trampled for late night that year. I remember it well. K-State lands its first transfer of the year yesterday. It was made official today. He signed with the program. Doug McDaniel. And no, you are not seeing it misspelled. You are not seeing it in AIM text spelling. It is truly just D-U-G, like I dug a hole.
Like the dog from the movie Up, which I appreciate our guy Tim Fitzgerald so much for
great film,
understanding the joke that I made. Yes, one of my favorite like films meant for children that I've watched as an adult.
Really tugs at the heartstrings. His name is not Douglas. That's probably why he can get away with Doug spelled just D-U-G. This is such a great fit for K-State. Now, again, like every player in the portal, there are concerns. The concern here is that he was suspended 6 games for academics last year at Michigan. He also played for a really bad Michigan team, played a lot of minutes for a really bad Michigan team. But Michigan was also terribly coached. terribly coached, and he didn't have a whole lot of help around him. K-State, much better coaching job. And I think it is also important. I saw somebody, another message board post here from the K-State board say, reminds me a lot of Marquise Noel. Okay, just because he's a short point guard does not make him Marquise Noel. But I do think there is a parallel you can draw between the year Marquise Noel spent with Jerome Tang, in which he went from truly wild boy point guard to, as Tang put it, he's a train, and we've got to make sure we keep him on the tracks. Because when he is on the tracks, he can be as good as anybody. And what did he do? He earned third-team All-America honors that year. I'm not saying Doug McDaniel is going to be a third-team or better All-American next season, but I think for a team that has proven they can get that kind of point guard on the straight and narrow as a basketball player, I think you're going to find a really important role carved out for Doug McDaniel. And more than anything, more than his scoring ability, more than anything that comes with him off or on the court, any of that. In his career, he averages 4.1 assists per game and 2 turnovers per game. More than twice as many assists per turnovers. I feel like K-State really could have used that this past year.
Yeah, that was something they were sorely lacking for sure. And the other thing that I like about McDaniel's fit, that is, like, again, it's not a straight line comparison between Doug McDaniel to Marquise Noel. Like, little guy plays point guard. Like, they're not all the same. Like, they're not all Muggsy Bogues or, you know, whatever straight line comparison you want to make. But one thing that makes McDaniel more like Noel in a way that will help Kansas State is that he's fast on the ball and he can lead the break.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas State was a really good transition team 2 years ago when Noel was running the point. They were not a good transition team this last year because that wasn't really Tyler Perry's style. He was much more of a half-court point guard. So K-State was not a team that could rebound and get out and run. Doug McDaniel can fly. He's got great stop-start ability. He can get downhill to the rim. I think Kansas State is going to play a much more up-tempo brand of basketball as a result of adding a player like this, which will mean they are much more pleasant to watch than the occasionally plodding team that we saw play last year. And again, I don't think that was Jerome Tang's choice. I think he'd rather play faster with a faster point guard. That was just not Tyler Perry's style. That was just not the way to play that fit him if he was going to be your ball dominant guard here as well. K-State doesn't have any big guards. They have lots of very small guards. Like Day-Day Ames is what, 6'2", 6'1"?
That's nice. Might be a generous height. He is officially listed if KStateSports.com wanted to load for me, which it apparently does not.
I know RJ Jones is
6'1".
Okay, he's 6'1". I know RJ Jones is 6'3". And K-State expects both of those guys back next season. Cam Carter's 6'5", but he's out. He's transferred. So you're not real big in the backcourt as it currently stands. So you probably want to get bigger out on the wings. And I would expect that Kansas State is not done in the portal. I think they're going to go out and get a third guard / wing to fill the starting spot. Like right now, if you had to put together a starting 5 this next season for Kansas State, I think you're probably looking at a question mark at the 5. Might be Gasson, might be the transfer from Michigan, although I'm hearing less and less about Terrace Reed to Kansas State right now. But you got a question mark at the 5. Arthur Kaluma might be back. Starting to sound like that's more of a possibility. If he's back, he's your 4. Your guard mix is going to be McDaniel and Ames and Castillo, David Castillo, the incoming freshman, and RJ Jones. That leaves a 3. And I think K-State would be well suited to go get a big wing to play that spot. I don't think they're just going to slide, Taj Manning or Buddy Rich into that role and call it good, or play Kaluma at the 3 and Rich at the 4. I don't think that quite works. I then don't think you're big enough in the front court. So some decisions to be made. They're far from done in the transfer portal, but the foundation for success for Kansas State, I think, is at the point guard position. We saw how good it could look with All-America caliber play at point. We saw how not good it could look with someone who was out of position manning the point this past year.
What do you think this means for Glover?
It's a good question. I mean, because maybe he is a guy who comes back, but he's not real big either.
No, he's not. I don't think there is any problem with having more ball handlers out there. If I was K-State, yeah, he's also just 6'1", 185. He's about the same size as Day-Day Ames. I would have no problem if I'm K-State out there having multiple guys who can handle the ball really well. Because you just went through a year where nobody could. I would rather have extra facilitators out there than none.
And if they want to play 3 guards, look, McDaniel, as good as he is at facilitating, he's also excellent off the catch. Like, he is much like Tyler Perry, a guy that you can run him off the screen and you can set him up to catch and shoot. So he doesn't have to be on the ball to help you. He's going to be your best decision maker, your primary ball handler, but you can run some stuff to get him off the ball and spot him up too. So if K-State wanted to go 3 guards, they certainly could. They'd just be really small right now with the guards that they have on hand.
I like the move regardless, but I agree they need some more size. They need a middle ground because it's either big man or little guy. That's kind of all they have right now. They do need that middle ground, play the 2 or the 3. That's going to be out there. I caution all college sports fans, and this is, again, real quick, a reflection of some things I read on various message boards. The transfer portal is going to be open for quite a while. We are not done with guys going into the transfer portal. We are not done. The NCAA tournament is not over yet. Guys are still making decisions as of yet. And don't freak out if you haven't signed every single player you want.
This across all sports. Fitz talked about it last week.
Yeah, because the football portal reopens after spring practice.
Yeah. That's going to come soon. Don't freak out if you don't have your whole roster filled out within 1 week of the portal opening. Calm down. It's going to be okay. Coming up next, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You. CJ Moore will join us later this hour here on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk? Our current winner for the week dubbed it the Popeyes Extra Spicy. A 70-year-old man and a 44-year-old woman were having sex on the side of the road in a bush in front of a Popeyes. She was very drunk. He just wanted to apologize and get out of there while his you-know-what was hanging out, and he couldn't get his shorts up. She was belligerent and was calling people a very inappropriate homophobic slur. They were both taken to jail. Again, on the street in front of a Popeyes. That is our winner for the week. Dan, you're up first today.
All right, we are going to South Korea.
Overseas.
The southern island of Jeju, and they are entertained by the television of JIBS. Jibs, yes. Do your chain hang low? Do it wobble to and fro? They are a private broadcaster on the island, and they have started disciplinary proceedings against one of their news anchors after a live news segment led to public outrage with accusations that the anchor was drunk while on the air. The controversy unfolded during the 8 News live broadcast March 30th when anchor Cho Chang-bum exhibited difficulty when pronouncing words and displayed unnatural behavior, raising suspicions among viewers. During the broadcast, the anchor struggled with pronunciation, notably stumbling over a sentence about the start of election campaign material distribution. That's a hard one to say sober.
It is.
He fumbled words like candidate promises and voting precautions multiple times. That's hard to say in English. I have no idea how hard that must be to say in Korean.
Right.
There were moments when the screen remained without any commentary from the anchor for roughly 7 seconds. After the broadcast, the Jibs website's viewer forum was inundated with complaints questioning if the anchor had been broadcasting while intoxicated, noting his flushed face and accusing the broadcaster of being visibly drunk on air, thereby disrespecting the audience.
Wow.
Jibs issued a statement on April 1st expressing regret for any inconvenience caused to its audience. The broadcaster removed the disputed segment from its website and official YouTube channel. You know how drunk you have to be to get people to call the TV station and say, hey, man, this guy looks drunk.
Really drunk.
Like, because it's one thing to stumble over a word or two.
I do it all the time.
Goodness knows you get that a time or 3 listening to 580 Sports Talk every day, and we are sober as judges. Let me tell you what. You have to be obliterated. Like, it has to be so obvious for people watching from their homes to say, oh, yeah, that guy's hammered.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I don't love it. That's very inappropriate. But it's very
classy,
funny.
Jeju.
My story is going to take us to Sacramento, California, where a person took a package off someone's front porch while they were dressed up as trash.
They wore a Chris Bryant jersey?
All right. Come on. Well, I mean,
this concludes your Rockies commentary for the month of April.
I am going to put up a picture on the YouTube stream right now of this person dressed like trash. And I'm not saying they like threw a bag over their head. No, they literally opened up a black trash bag and pulled it over and crouched up onto the porch, walking around as a bag of trash. Footage from Omar Gabriel Munoz's doorbell camera is making the rounds because it captures a thief who disguised himself as a trash bag, albeit one on the move. You can actually see the culprit shuffle their way up to the door, take a package, and then waddle away underneath the opened up trash bag. Munoz said he initially couldn't believe his eyes, thinking someone was playing a prank on him, telling ABC 10 TV, quote, "At first I was kind of angry because it was something I was expecting, but at the end of the day, it was kind of funny." Unclear if he saw this after the fact or was watching it in the act. In any case, he's not bent out of shape about it. Quote, "I take everything the good way because that's part of life. If you see the bad in everything, you're going nowhere." That's very nice. He also mentioned the package was not valuable or expensive. But that makes it even worse. This person stole a package not even knowing what it was and dressed like trash.
Yeah, man.
There are a lot. I love Ring cameras and things like that just for these. I saw one earlier today, I believe, and a guy was like waiting and he went out and beat a guy up.
Jeez. Yikes. Yeah, the Ring camera has really led to a bunch of good viral videos. Little Big Brother,
including that Bill Belichick one.
Yeah. All right, who's the winner for today? Do we have the trash thief or do we have the drunk newscaster?
I like both of these stories.
That's a hard one.
This is a toughie. The guy was scuttling around with a trash bag over his body.
Right.
To steal something that he had no idea if he had any like utility for. Just for the thrill of the theft, I suppose.
Went through all of that effort just to get socks.
I have always thought porch pirates were trash in the first place, so at least this guy self-identified.
True. Is that your vote?
Yeah, it's my vote today.
Yeah, I'll take that as a vote. I'll vote that too.
We'll go with that one. Although I will say a couple great nicknames. We'll call that one the Hefty Hoodlum. That's from Vance on YouTube.
Solid.
Paul on YouTube called the other one the Local News Dranker. That's pretty funny.
That's excellent.
That
Paul.
is well done.
That's
Great
so
work
good.
on the YouTube comments today. That is our winner for today. Does it beat the Popeyes Extra Spicy?
I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say this is funnier to me. Like this is like the Popeye story is just two gross people in flagrante in front of a Popeyes.
But it's
ruining Popeyes for me just a little bit. This is a person who dressed like a bag of trash. Kind of funny.
This is really hard.
I will take the pressure off of you. I'm going to vote for the trash bag.
All right.
I think this one is a little more slapsticky to me. The other one a little too gross for me. That is our new winner, the Hefty Hoodlum, here on What Is Wrong With You. CJ Moore will join us next on 580 Sports Talk. Back here on 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday afternoon. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer with you. It's time for the Big 12 breakdown here on the program, and joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline is our good friend CJ Moore for The Athletic. You can go check out his phenomenal work at theathletic.com. He is on site at the Final Four, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. So far, CJ, how has the desert been treating you?
Not too bad. Got in yesterday. worked a bunch, and so I haven't seen the sights too much. Went for a nice run in the desert heat last night, so I can't complain. It beats the cold.
I'm going to guess you had fewer travel problems than UConn did.
Yeah, I did. I'm straight here, straight shot.
Okay, so honest question here, because I've seen people joking on Twitter about this today that, oh man, UConn, who's better than everybody else and all these great players and gets all these advantages, they're 12 hours late or whatever. I would imagine, though, when you're working on this very regimented schedule and things are so structured for these college athletes, that probably does screw you up when you're not getting in till 3 a.m. or whatever it was.
I mean, the game's not till Saturday,
sure.
So I think they're fine. Like, yeah, I wouldn't read too much into it. You know, I do think I've heard from at least one school that, like, or, you know, third parties, that basically it's a lot more smoother travel when they're organizing their own travel and not the NCAA. So I think they'd prefer to probably just take their own planes and get down here that way. But yeah, I don't think it's going to affect UConn one bit.
Fair enough. And we'll get to the games for the Final Four and the national championship next week, of course, coming up here in just a moment. I did want to ask you, CJ, as we get started here with CJ Moore of The Athletic here on 580 Sports Talk, about some of the additions that KU and K-State have made over the last couple of days. And we'll start with the Jayhawks. We knew they needed to get scorers, shooters, guys who are more athletic, guys who can create their own shot. And then Bill Self goes out and in the span of 2 days adds Zeke Mayo and Riley Kugel from South Dakota State, and Florida, respectively. Let's start with Zeke Mayo. He's the Lawrence kid, Summit League Player of the Year. What do you like about him? I know you and Sam Vecini over at The Athletic had him as the, I believe, 12th best player in the portal this year.
Yeah, really, really good shooter. Can get it off the bounce or the catch. You know, he's gonna demand a lot of gravity around him just because of the threat of his shot. You know, the question marks are probably going to be like, can he defend at that level? Is he athletic enough at that level? He is pretty thin, but you know, talking to some people around that league, they think he's capable, and you know, I think he's a very, very smart grab for what they need.
Kugel, on the other hand, an incredible athlete. I mean, you watch 5 minutes of highlights and you can see, holy cow, this dude can really jump off the screen at you. Not great numbers overall last year, but his numbers in conference play, especially shooting-wise, better than in the non-conference. What do you think of Kugel, a guy who's got 2 years of eligibility left in the kind of role he can play for KU?
I didn't love his body language, effort, those sorts of intangible things when he was at Florida. And I think that's part of the reason that you saw his playing time take a dive. But, you know, he is talented, maybe in a new system with a new voice. You know, a lot of times the transfer, you know, now that they can transfer basically and not sit out however many times they want, it's a little different. But it used to be, you get a transfer and it's like, all right, buddy, like this is your last chance. Like you've got to, you know, you've got to be a good soldier. You got to play the game the way we want you to play because you can't go anywhere else. So that's changed a little bit, but it's still like his reputation needs rehabilitation. And so he should be coming in and willing to put in the work and willing to put in the effort. But I will say, you know, some of the things that I watched, at least I studied him a decent amount, you know, his freshman year tape, because I was considering putting him on the all breakout team, but and I just didn't love what the tape showed me. But he is a talented kid, and you know, maybe we're the Flyer.
All right, how about the K-State edition this week? Doug McDaniel, the guard from Michigan, spent 2 years up there playing for Juwan Howard. He comes in, a true one who can play for K-State this year. We talked about Tyler Perry kind of out of position for a lot of this season, even though he was a darn good player too. What does Doug McDaniel bring to the table for K-State? And can you simply look at that assist-to-turnover ratio of almost 2-to-1 and say this might fix some of those really debilitating turnover problems K-State had?
Yeah, he's a talented dude. He can really scoot. I mean, he's exactly what they needed this past year. It's too bad they can't just slide him into that past year. That's an NCAA tournament team. But I think he was a smart ad. And, you know, obviously they're going to need more than just him. But that was a nice addition and exactly what they were missing a year ago. And I'm glad they didn't just, say, okay, I think what we have coming back is good enough. I think they needed to go out and get a guard like that.
We're joined by CJ Moore here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. CJ covers college hoops better than anybody else over at The Athletic and theathletic.com. Make sure you follow him on Twitter as well at CJ Moore Hoops. All right, CJ, let's get to the Final Four this weekend. Look, I would love to add a little more intrigue to this. I mean, I'm intrigued in general, but a little bit more interest or spice to it. But, I mean, everybody is picking UConn, right? All the people like us are picking UConn. I assume everyone down there in Glendale is doing the same thing.
Yeah, coaches, media, whatever. But, a few years ago, Kentucky came into this thing undefeated into the Final Four. And I'm pretty sure at that point everybody was picking them. And they lost on Saturday night. So you never know. I mean, Alabama, the way they shoot the ball, how many threes they shoot, there's going to be some variance in that game. Maybe they pull it off. I don't think so. I think Connecticut's probably cutting down the nets again on Monday night. But, the Purdue-Connecticut matchup, if we get that one, I think would be fantastic. Zach Edey puts so much pressure on your defense. The way to beat Connecticut is to get clean off the floor, and nobody draws fouls like Edey. So, that could be a fascinating matchup, and who knows. But, I do think Connecticut is the best team, but the best team doesn't always win.
My best friend was in school at Wisconsin when they knocked off that undefeated Kentucky team, and I think he's still on cloud nine from that game all these years later. So the more interesting, I think, matchup in the national semifinals coming up on Saturday, it's the North Carolina State versus Purdue game. Purdue trying to finish off what's really a very similar story to Virginia in 2018 and 19, right, where they lose to the 16, they come all the way back, they win the national title the next year. Edey is about to be the two-time National Player of the Year. But North Carolina State, they are on a run that is reminiscent of Kemba Walker way back when he led UConn, to 11 consecutive wins, including conference tournament. This NC State team clearly not as good as that UConn team, but all things considered, I mean, what kind of chance do DJ Burns, DJ Horn, and this NC State team have against Purdue?
I think you got to get the big fella off the floor, and is it that way? Okay. You got to get the back out. Yeah. Hold on one second. Got to go back out and then go around. All right. Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to get in the building.
No, you're good, man.
No, I think they present some challenges, and just that DJ Burns is one of the hardest players to guard in this NCAA tournament. And, I don't think Zach Edey will necessarily start on him, but he might guard him at some point. And if they can somehow get Edey off the floor, then that completely changes the game. And, how you're going to guard Burns is this big decision you have to make, and nobody's really gotten it right so far. So, I think Connecticut wins that game. I think Purdue wins that game. Talking to coaches, they actually give Alabama maybe a slightly better chance to win than NC State. But DJ Burns and DJ Horn have been on a heater. So there's definitely a possibility that they can win that game. And like I said, 40 minutes, you never know.
I don't think it's controversial to say that Zach Edey gets a pretty good whistle overall, but I mean, the discourse about this has been intense. It's been intense on this show, even talking about all the fouls that he has picked up, all the times he's been to the line recently. Where do you stand, CJ, on the whistle that Zach Edey gets? Does it seem unfair? Does it seem pretty normal given, when you watch the games, when you watch the tape, does it feel like it's a fair whistle?
No, I think anybody who's making that argument is ridiculous. Like, he gets fouled, it's fine.
I mean, when you're that big, it's hard not to get hit all the time, right?
Yeah. It's the most ridiculous. Like, anybody who's complaining about that on Twitter, actually watch the games and see how it plays out.
All right, we'll get you two more quick ones here, CJ. Then we'll let you on your way. No, it's a busy day down there in Glendale. This is a pretty easy one. It's going to be UConn versus Purdue. We all think of the national title game. Does it come simply down to who wins the big man matchup between Klingon and Edey?
No. There's going to be. I mean, I think that Braden Smith's huge in that game. He's kind of the X factor for Purdue. Connecticut, when Klingon's on the floor, plays a drop coverage, and Braden Smith has killed drop coverage all year. Of course, nobody, they haven't gone up against anybody like Klingon. He is the best defensive player in college basketball. And it's going to come down to, can guys make shots? I think Mason Gillis is huge in that game. Guys like Cam Spencer, Alex Caravan. So I don't think it's just all the big man matchup, but that's what, all eyeballs will be on, and it's definitely a huge thing.
All right, last thing for you, CJ. Outside the Final Four, what's been your favorite fit or favorite hire during the coaching carousel so far?
Ben McCollum, let's go, Drake.
It seemed like that one was almost destiny, right? When Missouri State fell through. I mean, Drake hit a home run. You lose a coach as good as DeVries, replace him with Ben McCollum. That's a pretty impressive hire.
Yeah, I'm a little biased, but I'm gonna go with Ben for sure.
Big hire for Drake.
I like Dusty May to Michigan too. That's pretty good.
Yeah, big time get for Michigan there. CJ Moore covers college basketball for The Athletic. He joins us every Thursday during the college basketball season for the Big 12 Breakdown. CJ, we appreciate the time on a very busy day. Thanks so much. Enjoy the Final Four.
All right, thanks, guys. See you.
So that's CJ Moore of The Athletic. What were you saying a little bit ago about stumbling over your words on the air? Sober? Jeez. Anyway, appreciate CJ. You could hear in the background a lot going on in Glendale today.
Hey, we've covered a Final Four, you and I. You know how hectic it can get trying to get around and into the building and find the press conferences and all of that.
Yeah, well, and especially, I mean, at San Antonio for the Final Four in the Alamo Dome, I mean, it's right in the middle of San Antonio. Like,
it's very hard to miss.
You can walk right into. We did. We walked. We parked way away and walked across town to get into the building.
We got a parking ticket there.
Did we?
The night of the media party, we parked. I parked.
Oh God, I had completely forgotten about it.
We parked at a hotel, and I went up to the kiosk to pay for parking, and the kiosk was shut off.
That's right.
And so
did it share a parking lot with a Denny's or something?
Yes.
Yeah,
it was a hotel and a Denny's. And there was no way to pay for parking.
That's true.
I just assumed, well, all right, maybe they've opened some things up. It's, it's an event going on. Maybe it's a free-for-all. There's a Denny's there, for God's sake. Not charge people to park at Denny's. So, we went to the media shindig and came back. We had a ticket.
The thing I remember the most about...
they mailed us the ticket. That's what it was.
Yeah. It was they serve at the media party.
God, just a basket of flautas.
The house band also just covering Miranda Lambert songs all night. Which
what?
Yeah, no, for real. We sat down. I don't think Dan recognized any of them, but we got about 3 songs in because it was just us. Because Jake got invited to some exclusive Adidas party.
Yeah, Jake went to the Adidas party that
night. What the
night.
hell, man? Although then we picked him up later. He's like, yeah, it sucked. Like, it was just a bunch of business people. But we sit down. We saw some other people that I knew and that we knew. We're just, kind of hanging out. And we're eating. I thought, these are just Miranda Lambert songs. Like, over and over again. Just kept playing her greatest hits album pretty much. It's a clown show, especially there this year. Glendale is not near anything.
No.
The stadium is not near anything at all. So, not you feel a little called out by the Zach Edey commentary?
I do. That felt personal. No, I'm kidding. I have so much regard for CJ Moore as a knower of ball.
Yeah.
I will defend myself and say this. I think that Zach Edey, on balance, probably does get a fair whistle on the offensive end. I have issue with the whistle he gets on the defensive end.
That's fair.
I think he should be getting called for more fouls.
Fair enough. Entirely fair.
So
there aren't many of those.
That's where I'm at. That officials are afraid to call fouls on him on the defensive side because they don't want to impact the game and put him in foul trouble.
Had a question or a comment here on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. Michigan is like the G League for Kansas athletics. Doug McDaniel and Hunter Dickinson, former teammates.
Yeah.
Now playing in the same state against each other. Speaking of...
You fumbled that bag so bad, Juwan Howard. Oh, my God.
Unbelievable. He could have been there forever if he had been average, but no. Speaking of the text line, I have a family 4-pack of Royals tickets for tomorrow night, 6:40 Friday night, family 4-pack of tickets to Texter 3.
Clear your calendar.
785-272-9429. If you want Royals tickets for tomorrow, text in Texter number 3. You win the family 4-pack. We'll pick a winner coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. now. 1 hour left on 580 Sports Talk today. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis here with you until 6 o'clock. That's when we'll send you to the Royals Radio Network. Royals versus White Sox tonight. The White Stockings, if you will. We'll preview that game a little bit later on in this hour. We've got a boatload of headlines to get to momentarily. We'll also take your texts. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. And you can also find us on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. The text line, of course, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. And DePasquale Moore Injury Attorneys, family 4-pack of tickets to the K coming up tomorrow night. Do not worry, next week we will have more tickets to give away for the upcoming Royals home games. We've got plenty to give away over the course of the season.
We will be manning the DePasquale Moore ticket window frequently throughout the year.
So if you missed out this time or, I was hoping for tickets another day maybe, don't worry. We've got tickets all season long for you at the DePasquale Moore Injury Attorneys ticket window. You can visit the DePasquale Moore Injury Attorneys office in Topeka at 534 South Kansas Avenue, Suite 160. Why don't we dive right on into today's 580 Sports Talk headlines? There are a bunch of them to get to. Man, where do we even start? I will start with what I consider to be some of the biggest news of the day. Dan, you are wearing an Oakland A's hat today.
Yes, I am.
Not a Kansas City A's, not a Philadelphia A's,
Was
not a
there
Las Vegas A's.
Particular reason that you wore that today?
Yes, to mourn the theft of professional baseball from the good people of Oakland, California.
So it has been made official. It was reported early this morning this was likely happening. Now it has been made official. The A's, and I'm specifically not adding a city here, are moving to Sacramento, California. In fact, West Sacramento, not even Main Sacramento, for the 25, 26, and 27 seasons with an option for the 2028 season. And they are going to play their games starting next year at the home of the Sacramento River Cats, Sutter Health Park. The River Cats, a AAA team.
So there'll be 2 AAA teams at Sutter Health Park.
Dang, you're really bullish on the A's, huh?
I am glad, though, they got an extra year option in there.
Oh, yeah, I mean.
Because, they don't even really have a formidable situation set up in Oakland yet.
Yes. So hold that thought, because that is, I think, an important part of this entire setup here. So the A's are going to play their games for 3, if not 4 more years at the home of a AAA team that is not even their own affiliate. In fact, they once were, for upwards of 15 years, the Sacramento River Cats were the A's affiliate in AAA. And then they had a horrible breakup, like everything goes with the A's under the ownership of John Fisher. Now, even players who played there in the River Cat Hall of Fame, I saw this from someone I know who's from the Bay Area originally. Eric Chavez, who do you remember Eric Chavez playing for in the pros?
The Oakland A's.
The Oakland A's. He played for the River Cats. How about, I got to go find the other one here that he mentioned as well. Well, the picture of Eric Chavez in the Hall of Fame at the River Cat Stadium is not of him in an A's uniform. He went to the A's after playing in Sacramento. They have him in a Yankee uniform because the relationship was so bad. They took out all the A's paraphernalia in the stadium. And now they're going to go back here and be a tenant. That's preposterous. It is unreal. But you might be saying, why don't they just move to Vegas? Vegas, where they're going to plan, keyword plan, to play full-time starting in 28 or 29. They have a AAA team. Why not just go play there in the ballpark that is too small for Major League Baseball? Well, John Fisher, the brain genius owner of the A's, doesn't want to give up their TV deal. They have to be within a certain distance of Oakland to be able to get the lion's share of their TV money.
They lose their RSN agreement.
So if they go to Vegas, they would lose that. They'd have to renegotiate. They'd have to come up with a whole new deal.
And find a TV partner there.
Yes, exactly. That's the only reason they're staying in Northern California at all. They are a Ponzi scheme.
This is a disgrace.
It is.
This is the most disgraceful situation for a professional major sports franchise in our lifetimes. Like there's not anything really to compare to the mess that this has become, and it's appalling. And I know that Ron Darling, former Major League pitcher on the Mets broadcast, used this same word. So I apologize if I'm stealing the word that he uses. But it's appalling that Rob Manfred is just letting this happen. And the other owners, there are 29 other owners who, for better or for worse, like try to run their Major League Baseball teams like they are legitimate competitive concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them fail in that regard, but at least they, in their minds, are doing what they can to try and be a competitive Major League Baseball franchise. And then there is an owner in their midst, a fungus among them, who is doing this to a proud franchise, one with history in 3 different cities, but one with a proud history and one with a great connection to a city that is in the 6th largest television market in the United States. Can you imagine the NFL leaving market number 6 for market number 40? Oh, wait a minute. They did that.
Well, okay. And here's the other thing.
But you know why they did that? Because all their TV money is national anyway. Can you imagine any other major sport where the TV money is much more regional than it is national, deciding to leave market 6 for market 40? That's insanity.
It is insanity. Well, and the A's have been screwed over, not just by Major League Baseball. The Giants are not the chief concern here. The Giants blocked a move to San Jose, claiming TV territorial rights, which is outrageous. That's very dumb. The A's already don't have a fair shake in terms of territorial rights in the Bay Area as it is. Like, if the Nats and Orioles think they have a problem in the Beltway, which they do, the A's are in an even worse position. Whereas the Mets and Yankees, they have the same territory. The LA teams technically have the same territory. The Chicago teams have the same territory. The A's were always the redheaded stepchild of the Giants in the Bay. So they were already in a bad position. And now the fact that the rest of baseball is allowing this to happen is insane. And here's the thing. If you are one of the teams that pays into the luxury tax and that money is being shared with the A's, how do you stand for this? Seriously, how do you stand for this? Because of revenue sharing, they're going to still get plenty of money. The A's and John Fisher and Dave Cavall are going to be able to pocket it, and they're still not going to put out a competitive team. And they're going to be playing in a park that has 10,000 permanent seats. 10,000. They can max it out, guys, to 14,000 seats when you include standing room only and sitting area on the grass outfield.
Yeah, the berm, right?
For what it's worth, do you know the capacity of the K?
36?
37.9. Almost 4 times the size of it. And that's where they're going to be playing.
Also,
Major League Baseball.
Yeah, also the facilities are very much AAA facilities. The clubhouses are in the outfield.
Yeah.
There's one shared batting cage. Like, this is not acceptable for major league play. And if that was the whole argument about why the A's had to leave the Coliseum, how is it that you're going to sell me that playing as the Athletics in a AAA park in West Sacramento is more Major League Baseball appropriate, more acceptable for your players, more acceptable a facility to play in than the Coliseum is?
And I don't fault Sacramento at all. I saw some folks from that area getting upset or getting defensive on social media, like, hey, this isn't our fault. No, this isn't Sacramento's fault at all. Frankly, if the A's were going to move, they should have just moved to Sacramento in the first place. That probably would have pissed off a lot fewer A's fans because, well, like, at least they're still kind of close. It's not Oakland, but it's not Vegas. But the whole situation has nothing to do with the fact that the owner of the Kings was willing to take them on and house them for a while, or nothing to do with fans in Sacramento itself. It has everything to do with a grift by the ownership and management of this franchise. It's an embarrassment to all of Major League Baseball ownership. They continue to take L's. It's an embarrassment for Major League. Here's a comparison if you want for the NFL. Let's bring the headlines to this scenario, okay? Chiefs decide to move. Say, you know what? We're so mad at Jackson County, we're not ever going back to the table. We're going to move. We're going to become the Oklahoma City Chiefs. But the state-of-the-art stadium in Oklahoma City is not going to be ready until 2029.
If it gets built at all.
The Chiefs would go play at, KU. They're going to play at the booth. They're going to play at the new booth and play NFL games in a stadium that fits 45,000 people.
Not even that. This would be like if they went and played at CPKC Stadium.
Yeah. Honestly, that is probably more accurate. It's like if they were playing at Children's Mercy Park.
Yeah.
It's like if they refurbished Cessna and they were going to go play there. That's what this is. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine the outrage?
Playing at Gowan Stadium in Hutchinson.
Yeah. It's a nice facility.
It is.
but
that did look like
and that's the thing. For a AAA park, by all accounts, this is a pretty nice stadium.
Sure.
But pretty nice for AAA is not suitable for Major League Baseball. Do you have the quote up that you were talking about earlier?
I don't have it.
Okay, I have it here.
Before you get into that, I want to say this is not the first time a team that's going to relocate has gone somewhere else to play games, but they're doing their whole next 3 years. Before the Expos moved to DC to become the Nationals, they played 20 games a season in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Yeah, that is true.
But they still played games where they were at.
But yeah, that was also a weird experimental thing. This is legitimately, we're just going to uproot them and be tenants at a AAA park. So John Fisher, the owner of the A's, calls the new park, quote, the most intimate park in Major League Baseball. Yeah, no duh, because it only seats 10,000. And then adds this, and this is real. This is from a real reporter. John Fisher says he can't wait to watch MLB's top stars like Aaron Judge hit home runs here. This is literally baseball cuckolding. That's literally what this is.
I can't wait to watch Mike Trout crush whatever guy I'm paying to throw him baseballs, hit a baseball to the moon in this beautiful facility.
This is preposterous. It is utterly preposterous.
It's embarrassing. John Fisher, utter embarrassment to ownership in sports. I can't believe that there is a professional sports franchise that is in this condition, that cares so little about the quality of the product. Do you think you're going to sign a free agent to come and play in West Sacramento for the next 3 years? Do you think any free agent worth anything is going to say, yeah, I'm going to sign with the A's. I'm going to go play in front of 10,000 people in a AAA ballpark for the next 3 years, which is fine because it's not like the A's make much of a habit of signing free agents anyway, right? We'll spend money eventually. We'll put a competitive team out there eventually. When is eventually? Because it's not going to happen the next 3 years. Not when your ticket revenue is going to be what it is, and not when you're playing at a AAA ballpark. So there's for a competitive product on the field, and really, it's not even worth the facade of pretending that you have a chance to put a competitive product on the field until when you get this new stadium built. You got anything in the ground? You got shovels meeting dirt yet to build that new ballpark? And oh, by the way, Vegas doesn't want them. By and large, this is some rich people in Las Vegas want this to happen. Las Vegas, Nevada does not want the Athletics.
That's the one thing that is, if you're Sacramento, you're crossing your fingers for, and Spencer, you were alluding to this earlier, that this whole thing falls apart because they're not going back to Oakland. The final game that is played by the Athletics franchise in the city of Oakland will be
the end of the season,
September 30th or whatever this year. That will be the last time they ever play in Oakland. The hope for, if you're a Sacramentonian, I don't know what their demonym is that the whole Vegas thing falls through and they just build a new park in Sacramento. And if you're an A's fan, you're a Bay Area A's fan, that's probably what you're rooting for too. At least I could theoretically make a trip out to go see them still. Yeah. It just sucks. It should never be like this in any sport. This sucks.
It's just so unserious.
At least other sports give you the illusion that they care what fans think. Right?
Yeah.
At least NFL teams act like they care. This is just spitting in the face of everything that people care about in sports and a team. And I know we had texters a few months ago who said, I don't feel bad for A's fans because Oakland stole the team from us. I understand that. And if you're of that age, I get it for you. For me, who my whole life, the A's have been in Oakland, I feel terrible. And for most A's fans, their whole lives, they've been in Oakland too.
The city of Oakland was a great sports city, and not just in the sense of having professional sports, but having rabid fan bases for their 3 professional sports teams. Identifiably great home field advantages with the Black Hole in Oakland, or at Oracle Arena, how loud that place could get for those Warriors playoff runs. And yeah, I know the Warriors, all they did was move across the Bay Area, but it's a very different clientele in San Francisco than it is in Oakland.
We're fighting here over moving from Jackson County to Johnson County.
Right.
It's the same thing. So, if not more intense.
So this proud sports city with great sports fans and great sports history, great history of sports figures that goes back to Ricky Henderson growing up there, that goes back to Bill Russell growing up there, the history in that city, and the last vestige of it being yanked away by John Fisher, who is a thing I cannot say on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Just all-time miserable scenario. And it's awful to watch. It is just an utterly unserious sports franchise. And you don't see sports franchises that are in this condition. Like even the Phoenix Coyotes playing or Arizona Coyotes hockey team playing in a college arena that seats 5,000 people. Even they are more serious than this.
See, yeah. I would
That's
disagree
a new
about
one too. That's like a new stadium, new arena.
I would disagree with the word unserious because this is intentional. Unserious is the Jacksonville Jaguars having back-to-back first-round picks and winning 9 games last year and just throwing $39 million at Gabe Davis. Like that to me is unserious. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is intentional. John Fisher, I've had him on the brain too much. John Fisher has intentionally tanked this entire franchise. I don't know how you can't be embarrassed by this, but I guess
Yeah, you'd think Major League Baseball would be embarrassed by this. But again, Rob Manfred is trying to jam this through and get this done because once they solve the problems in Oakland and in Tampa Bay, then
it's terrible. We do have a couple other headlines to get to. Why don't we get into a few of them?
Yeah, let's get you the latest on the Rashee Rice automobile accident. His attorney, Royce West, held a news conference in Dallas earlier today, and for the first time, it was acknowledged that Rice was indeed one of the drivers in the 6-car automobile accident. He was driving the Lamborghini that was involved in the wreck. The attorney said that Rice needed counsel in the aftermath, said they reached out to police one day after the accident on his behalf, and that Rice has since met with police several times. The expectation is that some kind of criminal charge will be filed against Rashee Rice, although the extent of those charges are not yet known. So that's the latest you've got there. Rice admits he was driving. Rice is cooperating with the police. Rice himself released a statement on social media yesterday, and there will be some sort of charges coming. Again, the extent, the severity of which I'd be speculating if I said anything more than that. But that is the latest. That is what's coming down the pike there.
I mean, this is the right thing to do, to just be upfront about it and say, yeah, I did it. I did it. And to try to avoid as much punishment as possible. I think he's handling this as right of a way as you can. We were wondering the other day, Spencer, you had asked us, like, why did it take so long to talk to people? I think it was very much so talking to the lawyers and saying, okay, what do I do? And this is about as good as you could possibly have come out of the situation knowing that you did it.
Yeah.
All right, Spencer, what's your first headline today?
My first headline is, if I were to tell you, what do you think of the professional sports leagues is the most profitable league
of
the NFL?
The NFL.
Do you know what they also own? The NFL Network.
Yes.
Do you know what they did today at the NFL Network?
Yeah, a bunch of big names got fired.
Yeah, they let go Andrew Siciliano, Melissa Stark, James Palmer, and Will Silva. They're cutting talent. They just moved their Good Morning Football show from New York to LA. Apparently they're moving it there, but the way that they ended that show kind of seemed like, how is that show going to be formatted? Who's even going to be back from that show? So I wouldn't be surprised if there's more cuts coming at NFL Network, but this all stems from the fact is out of the TV game when it comes to producing their own thing. They've apparently are trying to have an equity swap with ESPN and giving them NFL Network.
Yeah, trying to move some of those pieces around. Melissa Stark will stay on at NBC. She does the sideline reporting for Sunday Night Football. Andrew Siciliano was on NFL Network for forever.
Yeah, he did the direct TV version of Red Zone.
Yeah.
Is he an NFL Network? Did he start it?
No.
Like
I
Rich
think
Eisen?
Eisen is the only one still around from that. And Rich Eisen's not on quite as much since he has his own show now. Yeah, a lot of big names that were released, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are more of those. That's sports media, though. That just keeps on happening. Next headline for me today. How about a Washburn headline for you? Former Washburn women's standout star, one of the greatest Ichabods of all time, national champion Jennifer Harris. She is going to be enshrined in the MIAA Hall of Fame. That was announced a little bit earlier today. She joins, how about this list of former Ichabod athletes in the MIAA Hall of Fame in Kansas City? Carrie Williams, Nikki Olberding Greenwald, Trey Lewis, Ewan Unagist, sorry. Bob Chipman, Shelley Foster, now Shelley Duffy, and the 2005 women's national champions from Division II, of which Jennifer Harris was a part. Go check out the Washburn record books. Go to WUsports.com. Go look at the Washburn women's basketball record books. You will see Jennifer Harris everywhere, all over them.
Jake LeBond will tell you what kind of stud she was.
Oh, yeah. One of the greatest of all time. First-team All-American in her senior year. She was the first ever National Player of the Year for Washburn, 1,300 career points. She's top 10 in everything. And she only played 2 years with the program. She was absolutely remarkable. She is the only Washburn athlete who is going into the Hall of Fame this year. That induction is coming up a little bit later on this summer, June 3rd, in fact. She was also the first MIAA player ever to be drafted in the WNBA. She went 20th overall to the Chicago Sky. So huge congratulations to Jennifer Harris, one of the greatest Ichabods of all time, and soon to be MIAA Hall of Famer.
Next headline for me, big coaching news in college basketball today as the Muss Bus is pulling out of Fayetteville and headed to Los Angeles. Eric Musselman, former head coach at Arkansas, as well as Nevada and some other places, will be filling the vacancy left by Andy Enfield, who left for SMU, and he will be the next head coach at USC. I think it was Dan Wolken earlier today who tweeted, "The Eric Musselman experience is one best enjoyed in short bursts." There is a reason Eric Musselman doesn't last long in any of his jobs. He will be successful. He will win you basketball games. He will wear you down. And eventually it will be best for all parties involved if there is a parting of the ways. And after a disappointing season, I think Arkansas was like preseason top 15 in the country and failed to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, they stunk.
Yeah, they were really bad. After that disappointing season in Fayetteville, he will be heading to Los Angeles. The hot rumor is that Ole Miss's Chris Beard is the top target for Arkansas.
Gross. I hate that. You're going to see Jerome Tang's name come up for this. You're going to see Jerome Tang's name come up for a lot of coaching vacancies. I did see someone I know who's a K-State fan say, I can't believe that the university president acts like a fool one time and now Jerome Tang's name comes up for every job. That's ridiculous. I hate to break this to you, K-State fans. This is not because of Richard Linton. This is because Jerome Tang is a really good coach and
really well-respected coach.
He's well-respected. He's a good coach. And Frank, and I don't mean this in a critical way. It's just true. K-State's not a blue blood program.
It's the same reason that Chris Kleiman gets brought up every time. Like
and Lance Leipold.
Yes, there's the power two, and then there's everyone else. And so every job that is in the power two will be viewed as a step up from Manhattan, Kansas by the national media.
Yeah, so and again, I don't think I'm saying anything that you don't already know. That just is what it is. You're going to hear his name every year. You're going to hear the name Jerome Tang come up for every major job until he says no about all of them. That being said, I don't think he will take this job.
No,
I do think it'll be Chris Beard.
It sounds like it's going to be Beard.
Awful. Coming up next, now that we are done with our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today, a big headline from yesterday. Are we getting closer to a college football super league? That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. The stadium drama will not end for the Royals and Chiefs. Mrs. Sherman has taken to social media to voice her displeasure. This is the writing from KMBC television in Kansas City. The wife of Kansas City Royals owner John Sherman says the Royals and Chiefs are done negotiating with Jackson County, and the community would be lucky if the teams end up in Kansas. She said those in response to messages on Facebook. She made comments including, unfortunately, neither team will work with Jackson County again. And then another one, quote, no more Jackson County for sure. She does not speak on behalf of either team. However, one key person involved with the negotiations says her comments are spot on. Sure they are, until they get a good deal with another tax break and they stick around. Quentin Lucas, also the mayor of Kansas City, tweeted 13 minutes ago, I hear rumors, including even from the mayor of Dallas. Don't believe the noise. We are committed to retention of our teams with vastly lower expenses, think needed infrastructure build out than even an intra-metro move. Both teams will be in KCMO in 2040 and long after.
I believe the mayor.
I do too. I don't think they're going anywhere.
No, I think I'd believe the mayor over the wife of a disgruntled
the
owner.
The wife
Do
of
we
a
know it was really
disgruntled
her?
billionaire owner.
Do we know it was really her, not like parody account?
No, like on her own Facebook page, people were commenting and she was responding to it.
That's wild.
Yeah, once you pass a certain tax bracket, you should not have
PR
Facebook
is
anymore.
probably freaking out.
Oh
about
yeah, oh yeah, big time. As if
There's
they haven't
nothing they
already
can
had
do about it.
Right. While that news is going on, there is this report from yesterday over at The Athletic. Andrew Marchand as well as Stuart Mandel were on this about behind a college football super league. It is a fairly long piece. You can go read it over at The Athletic. I know you're a subscriber, but essentially the folks at Syracuse and West Virginia, Syracuse Chancellor Kent Sivrud, I'm going to go with Sivrud, and West Virginia President Gordon Gee, who's 900 years old.
Oh my gosh, Gordon Gee.
I know you're a big fan. They both are the ones leading this current charge to build out a college football super league. Essentially, this would be composed of 80 teams, 70 permanent members, and then 10 who are susceptible to relegation every year, with another 10 teams out of what is the current G5 and I guess other cast-offs from power conferences that could move up and be promoted every single year. I do not doubt that some sort of super league will happen at some point. I do doubt it will be this plan. One, because until something is headed up by Greg Sankey or Greg Byrne, the AD at Alabama, or somebody from the SEC and the Big Ten, probably somebody's, it's not going to happen. Secondly, this plan sucks. It's not a good plan. It doesn't make any sense. And there's no chance it would happen, because do you know how many court cases there would be over breaking TV contracts if suddenly you said, as soon as possible, we're going to get rid of all these grants of rights and contracts with TV networks and everything? This would never work, ever.
If you were starting all over from scratch, it might be the thing that made the most sense.
Sure.
If you were tearing everything down, the conference model, everything that we have known college sports to be for 100+ years, and you were starting all over again with the idea of how do we maximize revenue for our universities and how do we get the players a cut, this might be the way that made the most sense. There are some things that are appealing to it. I don't like the thought of 70 schools locked in with no chance of ever being relegated. No, I want Rutgers relegated. I want Vanderbilt gone. I want Northwestern relegated. Mm-hmm. Relegate those schools. Do it post haste. Like, though, everybody should be able to be subject to relegation and promotion in a scenario like this. But you're right. We're not starting over from scratch. We've got years and years of tradition, which I know has been people have been spitting in the eye of tradition now for the better part of 20 years, but there's still some of it that means something to some people. And you would have to get some creative lawyering done to get out of all of these TV contracts and say, yeah, this is what we're going to do instead.
I, again, think that this will happen at some point. I have gotten to a point, I shared this with you this past summer, I think. I hope that we get one of these. I hope it's a 24-30 team thing, and all the Big Ten and SEC schools go off and play primetime Saturday night games on ESPN and Fox and leave the rest of college football to be what college football has always been. And I know I sound super old when I say that, and frankly, I do not care. It was better that way. And you can tell me, well, that's a logical fallacy. And I can tell you again, I do not care. I want it to go back to the way it was. It was better that way.
Yes.
And you're not going to change my mind.
No, I missed the Big Eight.
Yeah.
Like I miss the Bowl Coalition.
Honestly, if I was in control, I would say, all right, you Big Ten and SEC and then Clemson or Florida State or whoever, y'all draw straws. You figure out who the 24 going to the big leagues are, to the Super League are. Everybody else, we're tearing it all down. It's like the Chiefs radio network when they dissolved the network and then rebuilt it, and most of the affiliates were the same. Then there was us who jumped back into the mix, and some things got moved around and made a little more business sense. That's what I would do. And I would say, you know what? All the conferences, regional again. Sorry, Missouri, you drew the short straw. You didn't get to go to the Super League. You're in the Big Eight again. Welcome back.
It's good to have you.
Yeah. Nebraska, Texas A&M, maybe they get pulled. Well, maybe not Nebraska at this point. Like, those other teams, they're gone. They're doing their own thing. We're not going to play them. We're not going to schedule them. We're not going to be on the same TV networks as them. Bye. See ya.
Yeah, you do college, you do minor league NFL then with university logos slapped on the side. You go do that. And the rest of us will keep doing college football.
Yeah,
there'd be some appeal to that. Where this all comes from, of course, and we've spoken about this at length, about like basically every bad thing that happens in sports, because it's all tied to end stage capitalism and making the number go up, making the line on the graph go up and to the right. Well, for years and years, as long as the line kept going up and to the right, that was just fine with college sports administrators and commissioners, because they didn't have to share the profits with the athletes. College sports became $1 billion business over time, and you didn't have to pay the players squat. Well, now that model is outmoded and about to be ruled essentially unconstitutional. Like, the NCAA amateurism model is just about dead. It is on its deathbed. Last rites are being performed. It's over. You now have to share the revenue with the athletes in a meaningful way. The train is headed down those particular set of tracks. So now the challenge continues to be keep the line pointed up and to the right. So now it's, well, okay, how can we continue to maximize the revenue so that even if we're giving the players a chunk of it, we still get more of it for us? And this is how you do it. And is it better for us as fans? Absolutely the hell not.
I just want them to rip the Band-Aid off at this point, man. I'm sick of talking about this. I'm sick of nothing that we talk about for college football being like, we don't talk about the games enough. I care about football. I almost swore. I don't care what Greg Sankey wants. I don't. Go away. Go away. Take all the money. Take all the money. I do not care. If I can't watch, but what if KU and K-State could both make the playoff in a 24-team playoff bracket and you can in the third round play Alabama? I don't care. I want college football the way it was in 1988. I do not care. Bring back the Bowl Coalition.
That means you want Notre Dame to be good, though.
Fine.
I'm okay with them.
No, because they're gone. They're gone. They're out of it. I know that's a take filled with logical flaws, and I do not care. I liked it better when I was younger. And before we got into all this, I do not care about the business of college football anymore. And I'm sick of all the Johnny-come-lately, this means this for the Big 12. Stop caping for Brett Yormark. Like, I like him as a commissioner, but I don't care about his business sense. I care about football.
There are a lot of people that agree with you, but believe that it's the NLI and having to go away from the amateurism model that is the reason for all of this, and will blame the athletes for wanting the cut and say, that's why this has all gone away. Well, it was pretty wild that we had this industry grow to be $1 billion industry and the employees weren't getting paid. So maybe that never should have existed in the first place.
Yeah, I don't care about the transfers. I don't care about the kids getting paid. None of that matters to me. I care about what happens for anywhere between 2 hours and 45 minutes and 4 hours on Saturday afternoon. Literally all I care about.
Yeah.
Free transfers. You want to transfer week 8? Fine. So be it. I don't care. I care about football. And we haven't talked about football for college football in 4 years. And I don't need to get this upset about it because this is a hypothetical scenario that's not going to happen because nobody in those power conferences gives a rat's you-know-what about Gordon Gee at West Virginia or, God forbid, Syracuse.
That number go up and to the right.
But those teams won't be included.
Yeah.
Like, Alabama could not care less.
Yeah, I don't know why they're the people in front of it when...
Because they want to be included.
I mean, maybe West Virginia could be included, but Syracuse, no.
No, neither would be included.
Of the two, West Virginia has a better shot.
And I feel the same way about our schools, to be honest with you. Like, if you told me, hey, there's going to be a 30-team power conference, KU and K-State aren't going to be included. I know some folks will disagree with me, specifically with one of those fan bases, and actually, frankly, both, not going to be included. And that's fine with me. Just go back to caring about football being the reason why we talk about college football, not bottom lines and TV contracts. That sucks, and I hate that we've had to do that. And we talk about it because it's a big deal, and it is the news, but I would like to go back to a point where that's not the news. And if it takes segregating the sport in terms of the haves and have-nots, then fine. Just do it. Just rip the Band-Aid off, and let's do it already. We got to talk some Royals baseball. They play the White Sox tonight. We'll get to that next on 580 Sports Talk. ready for the Seth Lugo experience tonight.
Hope it's as good as the first one.
Seth Lugo on the bump for the Royals. Mike Soroka on the bump for the White Sox today. The Sox are bad.
Man, I barely remember Mike Soroka.
Yeah.
That's what I said when I was reading that for my Kansas Information Network Sportscast earlier. I was like, Mike Soroka?
Man, he missed 2 full seasons due to injury. I think one was an arm injury, then he tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
Guy was an all-star as a 21-year-old in 2019.
Yeah. He looked like the next big thing.
In his first start of this season, he allowed 4 runs on 7 hits in 5 innings while walking 3 and striking out as many batters as I have struck out in the Major League Baseball season.
That's tough.
That's not missing a lot of bats.
No, it's not. Seth Lugo, 4 Ks, did not allow a run his first time out. The starting rotation, I just want to know how long they can keep this up. I mean, it's not going to look this pristine all year. Obviously, it can't. That's not really how baseball works over 162 games. I want to know how long they can keep this heater up, though. It's been awesome. I mean, when's the last time the Royals pitched this well in a week?
Yeah, I can't recall one last season where they had a heater like this, but it gets to be contagious. You pass the baton on to the next guy, and you pitch your 6 innings and you turn in your quality start, then you hand the baton to the next guy for the next day. And I really do think it becomes contagious. Now, what you don't want is the negative of feeling like you got to go deeper into a game because you don't trust the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a negative. But offensively, you got to cover for the bullpen. Get a comfortable win would be nice. Don't make it a 1-run ball game in the 9th. Take a 6 or a 7-run lead on these bums. God,
They are
the
bums.
White Sox are so bad. They got a lot of ex-Royals on their team. I'm sure the two are related somehow.
Well, who's their manager?
General manager?
And their manager.
Pedro Grifol is the manager. Yeah, Chris Getz is the GM.
Yeah.
They've got 3 former Royals in there.
Jeez.
Benintendi, Nicky Lopez, and Martin Maldonado.
Oh, man, I should have prepared better. We could have played with Dan, like White Sox 26-man roster or currently on the Billboard country charts.
I can tell you this. Jordan Leisure, I would have gotten wrong.
Sick name, though.
Yeah, that's a really cool name.
Yeah.
Eric Fetty's on the White Sox?
Eric Fetty is on the White Sox. He went to Korea for a year, pitched really well, and
I knew he was in Korea.
Got a 2-year deal from the White Sox.
Yeah, man. I mean, this roster sucks. That's where Nicky Lopez is.
They've got one good starting pitcher, it looks like. Garrett Crochet has thrown well his first 2 times out, but the Royals don't have to face him this week. So
no, they're not. No, they're not. I mean, this rotation is awful. Chris Flexen is starting for them.
Rocky, great.
Yeah, Eric Fetty. Mike Clevenger just got re-signed, all-time dirtbag guy. And their bullpen is, another former Royal, Tim Hill.
Hey.
The man with the longest pants in baseball. Pants up to his nipples.
I have to imagine nobody is more upset about the 3-batter rule than Tim Hill. Tim Hill, before the 3-batter rule, Tim Hill could have pitched in the major leagues until he was in his mid-40s. Just
being a loogie?
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably could have been. How many players could you describe as even debatably good on the White Sox?
Lewis Robert is actually good.
Yes.
Garrett Crochet looks like he might be good. Michael Kopech throws the ball hard. I got nothing else for you. Like, Yoan Moncada will have like a week at a time where he looks like a good player.
Yeah, he was supposed to be good. He's not. Their shortstop depth chart includes Paul DeJong and Nicky Lopez.
I can't believe Paul DeJong ended up there. And he's their best hitter right now. He got 2 home runs.
Yeah, he hit a home run in their win. Andrew Benintendi is there. That has not worked out. Another former Royal. Eloy Jimenez is more myth than man at this point. He got hurt again the other day.
I feel bad for him.
Yeah, talk about made of glass. I don't even know who Dominic Fletcher is. And he's starting in right field?
Yeah, he was with Seattle last year or Arizona?
It wasn't Seattle.
I think he was in the Paul Sewald trade.
Yeah.
No. I'm thinking of somebody else. He was with Arizona last year.
That's okay. That's it. Royals baseball coming up. Pregame starts at the top of the hour. We have one more commercial break we have to get to first, then a final word on 580 Sports Talk. quick final word because we got to get out of here for Royals baseball against the White Sox. Dan, you're up first today.
Maikel Garcia hitting the ball in the air is very exciting. It's rare that you look at a player's profile and say, hey, they'd benefit maybe from hitting the ball more in the air, and then they go and do it, and they're successful with it. So it's been a fun first week for the Maikel Garcia breakout season. Long may it continue.
Spencer?
So tonight, the network that I don't like because it's owned by Ted Leonsis and I don't like him, whatever. The Monumental Sports Network, the RSN he bought, they are trying out a altcast, which I think is one of the first RSNs to do so. One of my guys that I look up to in DC Sports Radio, he's going to host it. So that's going to be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Final word for me. Good week in the transfer portal for both KU and K-State. Doug McDaniel, the K-State official today. KU with the big ad of Zeke Mayo earlier this week. That's a pretty encouraging start to the offseason for both programs. We are back tomorrow with a full show from 2 until 6. Brian Ralph of Heat Check College Basketball, plus Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest will join us. We'll preview the Royals weekend and much, much more. For Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuis, I am Brendan Dworzinski. Royals baseball is coming up next, right here after 580 Sports Talk.